All right, good evening, everybody. Today is April the 20th. I'd like to invite you all, or thank you all for joining us at the regular City Council meeting for the City of Galt. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic emergency, we have to handle our City Council meetings much differently than we usually do for the protection of the public and our city staff. I'm going to ask the City Manager, Mr. Hines, to give a brief explanation to the public. Mr. Hines?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Manager Lorenzo Hines. Good evening. This meeting of the Galt City Council is being conducted by teleconference/video conference in compliance with the state and county stay-at-home orders and as allowed by the Governor's Executive Order N-29-20, which allows for a deviation of teleconference rules required by the Brown Act. Members of the public will see the council members and city staff who are appearing via remote video/telephone connections. City council meetings will be held virtually by teleconference or by video conference only until further notice. Today's agenda states that rather than attending in person, residents may submit written public comments via email to pubcom@cityofgalt.org prior to the council meeting. Any written comments that were received will be read out loud during the city council meeting by the city clerk on the appropriate agenda item, subject to the customary 5-minute time limit, unless the same individual also appears and requests to speak live during the meeting. We will take the live comments first, and then the written comments will be read out loud. We are also using the Zoom webinar format, which allows the public to provide live public comment. Members of the public may use the link to enter the webinar as attendees. They should be able to use the raise their hand feature in the Zoom webinar to let us know if they would like to speak, and should do so when the mayor announces the time for general public comment or when a specific agenda item is called if your comment concerns an item on the agenda. We request, as we typically do in person, that speakers provide their name and address when they are called on to speak and their line is unmuted, but doing so is not required. Attendees should also see a lower hand feature if they change their minds and do not want to speak. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hines. I will now call the meeting to order. Ms. Huber, can you please take a roll call?
Vice Mayor Sandu.
Here.
Councilmember Papineau.
Here.
Councilmember Vandenberg.
Here.
Councilmember Lozano.
Here.
Mayor Farmer.
Here. All right, if you'd now all join us in a silent prayer followed by flag salute. If everyone would please join us in a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Hubert, if you would please read our replay statement.
This meeting of the Galt City Council will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed captioned and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will air Friday, April 23rd at 9 a.m. and Saturday, April 24th at 9 a.m. This meeting can also be viewed on Metro Cable 14's YouTube channel.
Thank you. Are there any agenda approval additions and or deletions this evening?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Council, we are recommending that the council continue the public hearing on item G1, the public hearing on the Carillion Boulevard Corridor Plan, to the next regular meeting on May 4th at 6 p.m. at the virtual meeting Zoom link provided on the May 4th council meeting agenda. We are still resolving some issues surrounding this particular item. As such, we are recommending that the council continue the item to the May 4th meeting at 6 p.m. And we will need a motion, a second, and a roll call vote.
Okay, do I have a motion to move the Carillion Boulevard Corridor Plan public hearing to the May 4th meeting?
Make a motion to move it.
Moved by Councilmember Lozano,
I second.
seconded by Councilmember Vandenberg. Ms. Hubert, a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau,
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano,
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Is there any other items to be pulled from the consent? Jay, you have your hand up. Is that a mistake?
No, that's correct. I think it's H3, the C Street Enhancement Project.
Well, that is not on the consent.
Oh, sorry.
It's a regular item. So, okay. So that was a mistake.
Yep.
Okay. All right. There's no other items. We will move on to item C, presentations. Do we have any presentations this evening, Ms. Hubert?
None this evening.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to item D, public comment. Ms. Hubert, do we have any written public comment this evening?
Yeah, under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the public may address the City Council on non-agenda items. The public comment section is for the City Council to receive comments. Except for brief responses to questions, no discussion or action may be taken on any item that is not listed on the agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Due to the statewide emergency and social distancing guidelines, public comments may be submitted via email to pubcom@cityofgalt.org and will be read out loud subject to the customary 5-minute time limitation. Also, members of the public may participate electronically via https:// web.zoom.us/j/85313034885, webinar ID 853-1303-4885. And I do have one written comment on non-agenda items. There is no name. I am against selling the flea market and putting in homes, hotels, strip malls, all for one sale. Cash that will be gone in a blink of an eye. Leave the baseball for the kids. There is nothing in Galt for kids to do. Why take the one thing they have? The Boys and Girls Club came and went, did not have the right people taking care of it. The money walked. Galt, does it offer a heck of a lot for the kids? The only thing here I see is kids running the street in gangs. That's all I have for written comment.
Okay, thank you, Tina. Do we have any hands raised online, Rose?
We do have, excuse me, we do have a hand raised.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to go ahead and allow Mr. Jerry Sauter. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, members of the council, city staff. I just wanted to just provide a quick, brief thank you to Mayor Farmer. He recently did a podcast on social media, and as of late has been very forthcoming with items concerning the community and things that will be on the agenda. I know several other council members have also expressed making sure that the public is aware, but I thought that Mayor Farmer's podcast and answering questions from the community on some of the pressing issues that are facing Galt and decisions made by the city council was very, very informative. So I just want to say a big thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Sauter. Appreciate that. Do we have any additional hands raised?
We have no additional hands raised.
Okay. All right, moving on to our next item E, reports by city council members on regional boards, commissions, and committees. We'll start with our vice mayor, Mr. Sandu.
Nothing to report tonight. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Papineau.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Mr. Vandenberg?
Nothing to report.
All right. Councilmember Lozano?
As always, just real brief. I attended the SACOG board meeting last Thursday, and the highlight of the meeting, at least for us, was that the board unanimously approved the grants that our staff worked really hard on obtaining, and some of the issue or the two grants. One is for to do a study on Cost Road at the railroad crossing, looking at widening that and having more access to pedestrians and bicycles over in that area. And then the other one is on Walnut Avenue, kind of really from the fire station all the way down to East Stockton, different improvements, sidewalk improvements, bicycle lane improvements, and pedestrian crossing improvement there at Emerald Vista. And so I want to thank again staff for our staff for being diligent and really looking into what these opportunities will provide. And honestly, it's grant money is tax money, and they did a really good job of bringing tax money back here so that we don't have to take it out of our transportation fund or general fund to make these improvements. So I wanted to publicly thank Mr. Selling and his staff for what they do to make that happen. And really, that is about it. I will leave it at that and pass it on to the next person. Thanks.
Thank you for the updates. As for myself, I attended a Galt Youth Commission meeting on April the 12th, and we're still looking for, I guess we're still soliciting applications for adult mentor, and we have some of our youth mentors that are going to be leaving, and we're looking for some replacement on those. We did talk about an upcoming community, or they have an adopt a street for Lincoln Way. And so we discussed that, and we've been coordinating that to come up very soon. So looking forward to, they're anxious to get back out in the community. We had some other business. Can't remember anything that was significant other than that. And then another thing, not really commissioned, but I did attend, which as some of you did, the swearing in ceremony on April 15th at the police department for our new officers, Officer Walter Herrera, and our new dispatchers, Meyer and Marquez. And it was great to see the turnout. The whole department was there from what I could tell. And a lot of city staff, council members were there. And I appreciate everybody showing up. It was a really strong show of support for those new officers. So that is all I have on that. So we will move on to item F, which is our information consent calendar. It is recommended that items 1 through 9 be acted on simultaneously unless a separate discussion and or action is requested by a council member. Item 1 is the minutes of the regular meeting of April 6th, 2021. Item 2, receive and file warrants for a period ending April 7th, 2021. Item 3 is the treasurer's report for a period ending February of 2021. Item 4, which actually, let's skip that. That's a regular item now. I have an old agenda here. Item 5 is going to be Catarina Estates Project, second reading. Item 6 is the ordinance of the City Council of Galt authorizing the levy of special taxes in a community facilities district, including certain annexation territories identified as annexation number 1 Veranda into the City of Galt Community Facilities District 2021-1. Item number 7 is going to be ordinance of the City of Galt authorizing the levy of special tax in a community facility district, including the certain annexation territory identified as annexation number 2, Cordosa, into the Galt Community Facilities District 2021-1. And item number 8 is the same item, levy of special tax for the annexation territory identified as annexation number 3, Cedar Flats Estate, into the City of Galt Community Facilities District 2020-1. And lastly, item 9, the acceptance of the Marengo Road Railroad Crossing improvements per the Development Impact Fee Credit Agreement with Elliott Homes Incorporated for the River Oaks 3C subdivision. I will entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember?
As previously noted on other actions regarding the veranda, I have a personal property within 500 feet of that development, so I will recuse myself from a vote on item number 5.
Item number 5. Okay, thank you for that. So if I can receive a motion to approve items 1 through 9, excluding number 5. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Vice Mayor Sandu,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Vandenberg. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau,
Aye.
and again, that's noting for just items 1 through 4 and 6 through 8. And Councilmember Vandenberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano,
Aye.
and Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Item passes 5-0. I will now entertain a motion to approve item 5.
Approved.
Actually, I have it as item 5. Is it item 5 or 6? Because there was a item pulled out. Can you
It's
clarify?
5.
It's 5. Okay.
And we, Harriet, didn't we discuss we could do one roll call vote noting that Councilmember Papineau recused himself from 5?
Yes, we did do that, but once the mayor started, I thought we'll just do it in 2 votes.
Okay.
But since it's still on the consent calendar, I think Mr. Papineau can stay in the room.
Okay.
Okay. Do you need me to read item 5 again, or is it okay? We go to the roll call.
I think you can go, if you have a motion in a second, you can just go to the roll call.
Okay. Did we get a motion on item 5?
I move.
Second.
Vice Mayor Sandu moves, seconded by Lozano. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano,
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right, we'll now move on to item G was pulled and moved to future meetings, so we'll proceed on to item H, regular calendar, city manager's office. Excuse me.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Could you please note that it was moved to May 4th, because we want to move it to a date and Carrillo to a date and time certain, so we don't have to renotice it.
Sure. I thought we did that and voted on it at the beginning. We stated that, but I have no problem.
Okay, I just wanted to note that it wasn't moved to any old meeting. It was moved to the meeting on the 4th at 6 o'clock.
Clarify item G of which is the Carillion Boulevard corridor plan and public hearing has been moved to the May 4th city council meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
All right, no problem. All right, we'll move on to item H, regular calendar from the city manager's office is our coronavirus COVID-19 update. Mr. Hines.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the host, can I share my screen?
Yes, give me one moment.
Sure.
It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great. Can everyone see the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I'm going to present the COVID-19 update for April 20th, 2020. So we've got our cases, deaths for both Sac County and the city of Galt. These numbers are measured since our last council meeting on April the 6th. As you can see, the number of cases in Sacramento County has increased by 3% or 2,600 cases. The number of folks that we've lost in Sac County is 2%, has increased 2% as well, or 27. Here in the city of Galt, and this includes all the folks in the Galt zip code, we have 44 additional cases since the last council meeting, or an additional 2%. We have lost one additional person since our last council meeting, increasing the number of deaths by 2%. So the pandemic, although it's slowing down a bit, is still raging. Sacramento County remains in the red tier. There are 9 new COVID cases per day per 100,000. No change since our last meeting. We have a 3.5% positivity rate, which is slightly up from our last meeting where it was 3.3. Greater Sacramento region ICU capacity is currently at 29.5% versus 27.8% on our prior meeting. The big news is on June 15th, 2021, California will fully reopen if 2 criterion are met. And the first criterion is if the vaccine supply is sufficient for Californians 16 years and older who wish to be inoculated, and hospitalizations are stable and low, and specifically hospitalizations among fully vaccinated individuals are low. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we meet those 2 criterion so we can reopen on the 15th. Galt's vaccination event, originally planned for the week of 4/18, was postponed due to the CDC and FDA's recommended pause in the use of the J&J vaccine. This vaccine was linked to some rare physical ailments in folks that had received the vaccine, and that's why there was a pause. The vaccination event has been rescheduled for Saturday, April 24th at 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Location is to be determined. We anticipate 1,000 to 1,500 Moderna vaccines have been allocated for this event. Final details and appointments will be released soon. Staff is coordinated with CSD to reschedule the mobile vaccination clinic, specifically focused on the unsheltered community and homebound seniors. It will be rescheduled to the week of 4/26. Details to follow. Vaccinate Sacramento, which is a webpage from Sacramento County, provides availability to the community, provides the community information on available vaccination sites. And so we recommend that our folks stay vigilant and keep an eye on that site. We also have Vaccine Finder, which identifies clinics, pharmacies, and other locations offering the COVID-19 vaccination. We have myturn.ca.gov, which contains appointments for mass vaccination sites coordinated by the state, i.e. Cal Expo, McClellan Park, and the Stockton Arena. Individuals 16 and older are now eligible to be vaccinated in California. Sacramento County recently extended the Galt COVID testing site through June 2021. 50% of all eligible Californians have received at least 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Sacramento County has administered over 855,000 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, 500,000 partial vaccinations, and almost 350,000 full vaccinations. Our staff continues to work with Sacramento County and our community partners to ensure an equitable and safe vaccine distribution to the residents and community members of Galt. And Mr. Mayor and members of the council, that concludes my report for April 20th, 2021.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hines. Do we have any questions from the council on this particular item? Mr. Vandenberg.
It showed over 300,000 full vaccinations. Is that 2 doses per person? So the actual total of doses given out is like 1,200?
I think it was 350,000 total vaccinations.
Right, but the full vaccinations, so that means 2 injections?
There'll be 700 doses, I think. 700,000 doses.
Plus the other 600 or whatever it was above.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a correct assertion, Councilmember Vandenberg.
Thank you.
So just some clarification, Mr. Hines. So the vaccination that was rescheduled for this weekend is not the mobile vaccination that was canceled. You're referring to the vaccination that was supposed to happen on the 18th and it's being rescheduled to this weekend. Is that correct?
Yes, that's the case. If you we want to discuss the details, I'm going to ask our Parks and Rec Director, Armando Solis, to address your question.
Yes, we've been able to reschedule both the mobile vaccines for our targeted areas for our seniors. I was able to talk to CSD, and they will provide a walk-in for a walk-in event for our seniors, also for those who do not live within the 9 targeted areas. And this is different from what we're doing on Saturday, which will be done with La Familia. We're in talks. We talked today at 4 o'clock whether we're going to do a walk-in or a drive-through. That will be determined tomorrow, and we'll be able to send out more information on that. That's why the TBA on where it's going to be.
So where should folks be watching closely for the information on the address on the city's webpage and social media, or?
Yes, we're going to be putting it on our webpage and through social media once they put together the site with the location. And that should be out by tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. If you could please.
But for the, I'm sorry, for the mobile vaccines, we're taking that information and we've already forwarded it to CSD.
Okay. If you could, I mean, I'll watch for it on social media for the one this weekend for the address, but if you could maybe let the council members know as a whole, so that all of us that, could share it if we would prefer to do, to help get the word out on the address, being that we're coming on that pretty quick. So that'd be great. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Solis. I had one more question about the vaccine. I forget what it was. So just to clarify, because I've had some seniors ask me about their concerns with the pause in the Johnson & Johnson, the rescheduling of the mobile is, neither of these events are going to be using the Johnson. That is currently still on pause. Is that correct?
Correct. We have pivoted to Moderna on both for the mobile and either walk-in or drive-through.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councilmember Lozano, you have a question?
I do. The one for this weekend, the event for this weekend, is that going to be appointment driven or drop in?
It will be appointment driven. And then what we're hoping to do, if we have extra appointments toward the end, do a first come, first serve those open spots for people that didn't show up and take the appointments.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions on this item? No. Okay. Do we have any written public comment on this item, Tina?
No public comment.
Okay. Rose, do we have any hands raised online on this item?
We currently have no hands raised.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Then we will move on to our next item, which is going to be item 2, the body worn and in-car cameras. Agenda report is going to be being presented by our interim police chief, Mr. Kalinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. And if you give me a moment here to share my screen. And hopefully you can see the PowerPoint.
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. Brian Kalinowski with the Police Department. And as many of you know, the use of body-worn cameras and the need for transparency and accountability has been a hot topic throughout the nation since before 2014, when we first learned of some high-profile incidents that have occurred. In 2015, the federal government released a 21st Century Policing Initiative, and I thought it important to review that with council because many of the decisions made in law enforcement are based still on this document. And it was in that document and work was designed to identify best policing practices and offer recommendations on how those practices can promote effective crime reduction while building public trust. And within that document, you see the 6 pillars that were identified. For those only listening in, I'll repeat those, which are building trust and legitimacy, policy and oversight, technology and social media, community policing and crime reduction, training and education, and officer safety and wellness. Locally, you've probably seen us engage in many of those different levels of engagement, and those are all based on that initiative. I will say in California, we tend to be ahead of the curve on what's going on nationwide. So many of the things that were recommended in this document were already ongoing here in the city of Galt. And that takes us to body-worn cameras. And so why body-worn cameras? So the use of the body-worn cameras, as you can see, can contribute to improving police practices, building community trust and legitimacy. The use of body-worn cameras in different studies that have been done have shown to reduce the number of complaints received and the uses of force needed. There's a reduction in time to review potential complaints because we do have video to review of different activities that occur, which we currently don't have the benefit of having. It allows for the review of critical incidents, and it allows management staff to identify any training gaps, provides the opportunity for de-escalation, allows for better evidence gathering, and provides for an overall better officer safety program. The ability to review footage from the perspective of the officer is important in analyzing the appropriateness of the actions taken. Currently, the Galt Police Department does not utilize any form of body-worn cameras or in-car camera systems. And that takes us to our selection and our request to use our vendor, Axon. Axon offers the ability for automatic camera activation, not only when a handgun is drawn, but also when the taser is activated. The taser is an Axon product, so the Bluetooth technology allows for that activation. And there's currently no company that we considered that allowed for both. In addition, the body-worn program will auto-activate cameras in the area of a body-worn camera activation. So if I'm the first officer on scene, or if I activate and my partners have not had the opportunity to activate, the automatic activation will occur. This includes the vehicle cameras, assuming the vehicles are within range. The vehicle cameras will activate when the overhead lights are activated, or in the case of a collision. They could also be customized to address a certain speed criteria, and if we activate our gun locks in the vehicle for either our less lethal or our patrol rifles. Axon has real-time GPS capability. We have that currently in our vehicles with our computers, but the body-worn camera itself allows us to track the location of an officer should we need to in a critical incident where they have separated themselves from their vehicle, like in a foot pursuit or other issue. This program also gives us the ability to have a critical incident real-time viewing from a remote location. That includes dispatch supervisors if they happen to not be on scene for some particular reason, or command staff. In addition, Axon refreshes their body-worn camera equipment for the body-worn cameras, not the cars, but the body-worn cameras at the 2.5-year mark and the 5-year mark. And that's important because it ensures that the officer is equipped with the most up-to-date technology available, and that our equipment is not stale and is responsive to our needs. Furthermore, the database access through evidence.com for the district attorney's office is already in place with other agencies, specifically the Sacramento Police Department and the Sacramento Sheriff's Office. So for us, implementing this program on that platform is something that can be accommodated by the district attorney's office, and staff has reached out to them and confirmed that. For those who don't know, the body-worn cameras obviously record video, audio, and it gives us the ability to take still photos. So earlier I referenced, the ability to collect better evidence. Obviously, from the officer's perspective or other officers on scene, we can record real time what's happening with the individual or individuals we're dealing with. Those making filing decisions or in the court can get a better perspective beyond a written report of the actions or the issue before the officer. All this information will be uploaded into a cloud-based system that is maintained by Axon. They have redundancy across the nation on multiple locations. This cloud-based system prevents the city from having to host that information on our servers. And again, gives us the ability to access this data at remote locations. And like I mentioned before, the district attorney's office being able to use evidence.com. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna make sure I don't repeat myself too many times. The patrol vehicle cameras specifically are equipped with 2 cameras, the first being a forward facing and the second a rear facing for the in custody or the cage area of the vehicle. So that gives us the ability to have active monitoring of the backseat area when we have it in custody. And then of course, everything in view in front of the officer in the vehicle. In addition to the GPS that I mentioned, and the camera activation to the sergeants or the supervisors, excuse me, in the dispatch center is a thing that they have, that's poor terminology. It's a program that they have for a gunshot alert activation, where if there is a alert for gunshots, there's an automatic activation for the supervisors and dispatch. And an example of that would be in the case of something like an officer ambush. So timelines. And there's a couple things I need to cover here because I haven't talked about the staffing and other equipment needs that we've talked about in the staff report that council has seen. But I want to cover timelines and then exit this PowerPoint because I don't want to give you death by PowerPoint so I can see you when I'm talking. The equipment we expect to be shipped in early July. First, the body-worn cameras will be deployed, followed by the in-car cameras. During this process, as Ann noted in the staff report, we have met with the Galt Police Officers Association and agreed with the association that we would work collaboratively on policy and procedures to ensure that we address any concerns that staff has regarding this program. We are not an early adopter of this program by any means, so most of that policy and procedures should already be duplicated in other agencies throughout the state and the nation for that matter. The position conversion, which I'll talk about in a minute, just so you have the timelines, will also occur by this July timeline. And we envision that being open to current city employees. I'm gonna stop my share here so I can get back on the screen. As I mentioned about staffing, the body-worn camera program requires specific oversight and maintenance of the data that's collected. And the department anticipates, as noted in the staff report, significant increases in data requests, not only from a criminal component with the district attorney's office, but in California Public Records Act request. So we anticipate significant work launching this program, and that's why we are going to be asking the council to approve a conversion of one of our vacant dispatcher positions that's in Measure R to the Administrative Analyst 1-2. We've identified, I have with HR, that this job description aligns with the duties and tasks necessary for the general operations of this body-worn camera program. How we got to taking the dispatcher position and converting that is specifically back in 2016, before we did some reclassification work citywide. The city looked at this. The dispatchers were co-classified as dispatcher CSOs. And in that staffing survey, in that classification, they took that CSO designation away. And by virtue of that, really upstaffed my dispatch center to 9 dispatchers plus a supervisor. Based on our current population calls for service and workloads, the 9 dispatchers plus a supervisor is more than is needed in the dispatch center. And in an attempt not to overspend or not use our funding judiciously, we're going to take that dispatcher position. We feel that could be better used as the analyst position. We discussed this at length with the Galt Police Department Civilians Association, their president and vice president. They concurred with our approach and indicated, and I would tell you that, of course, in the future, as Galt grows, we will revisit the need for that dispatcher position when the time is right. There are some other operating costs that we're requesting. And the first and foremost is we think there's some workspace issues we need to address, and we've identified an estimated cost for computer, printer, and different things, estimated to be about $4,000. And then in addition, an interface with our records management system, which is Sunreg Systems, our RIM system. That contract with with that group is $3,200 a year. So we'd be requesting the funds for that interface. And then lastly, in discussions with the POA, we determined that in order to get the best use out of our body-worn cameras, we needed to ensure that each of the officers was equipped with their own smartphone. Currently, we have a number of smartphones in the department that are pool smartphones, but this program requires tethering to an individual smartphone, and we don't have enough when we have full staffing or overlap shifts or special events. So part of this program requests the funding for the first time cost of the purchase of that smartphone to supplement what we already have. And then the program cost for that through AT&T. It's a FirstNet product. And the first year cost for that is $15,000. We anticipate moving those cell phone voicemail boxes to the officer's primary voicemail box and dumping our landline voicemail box. So there will be some savings in out years, but we haven't identified that total savings yet. But our first year cost is estimated to be about $15,000 for the smartphones and associated equipment. In the staff report, and we talk about funding, a majority of this funding is coming from Fund 47, which is Measure R, with a small amount coming from NCC SIF, our insurance pool, our self-funded insurance pool. There is a fund of about $18,000 that we have not yet spent. And we need to spend that money, and we need to have a body-worn program in order to spend future funds out of that fund. So we will offset some of these first year costs with that $18,180 being provided by NCC SIF. The total cost for the first year, all funds, is $237,190. And that is what's recommended for council to approve. There's information in the staff report about Galt Municipal Code Section 3.40.140, which I'm sure council may ask legal about, but it authorizes the use of Measure R, special sales tax revenues for various police services, and expressly including purchasing police equipment, what this obviously is. And there's some ongoing information in there that finance provided us, indicating that we have the fund balance necessary to take on this first year's request of funds. The overall 5-year fund request of $496,000 for the 5-year cost for Axon due to increased revenues and a lack of sort of expenditures based on vacancies and unspent funds. So with that, that's my initial presentation. I'm sure there's going to be many questions from council that I will attempt to answer. Late this afternoon, I was able to get a hold of Axon, who agreed to sit on this meeting if necessary for any questions that I may not be able to answer that may be more in the IT world, because quickly we will get out of my lane in that regard. So if there's something that I can't answer, I can ask Axon to jump on. So with that, I submit the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Kalinowski, and thank you to, is it Tom from Axon?
Yes.
Thank you for doing that. I know you and I had a late day's conversation, and I had asked if there was going to be somebody there, and you said there wouldn't be, but I appreciate going the extra mile and having them here. It could pose to be useful. So I will start questions with council. We'll go around the horn here, and we'll start with our Vice Mayor, Mr. Sandhu. Do you have any questions on this particular item?
Mr. Mayor, do you want to be public comment before we go?
Public comment first. Would the council prefer we do public comment first? Rich, Jay, Kevin? Okay. All right. Do we have any written public comment on this item, Ms. Hubert?
No written comment.
Okay. Rose, do we have any hands raised online?
We do. I'm going to go ahead and allow Michael Little to unmute your mic, and you have 5 minutes.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, city leaders. For those who don't know me, my name is Michael Little. I'm the current president of the Galt Police Officers Association, or otherwise known as GPOA. Tonight, as you have just heard, you have a proposal for body-worn cameras and dash cameras. Body-worn cameras and vehicle-mounted cameras are now a norm in the law enforcement industry. In fact, Galt Police Department is one of the last agencies in the region to start using body-worn cameras. The use of body-worn cameras not only creates an even greater level of transparency, but also holds both parties more accountable for their actions. In today's world, a few second clip from a cell phone can form opinions and conclusions without any facts. Allowing our members to utilize body-worn cameras will allow the department to release actual video and audio from incidents to the public to show the factual events of any given incident. Policing in America in 2021 is quite different from even just a few years ago. Part of the change, and rightfully so, is to be as transparent as possible. I look forward to growing the bond and trust with our great community by implementing the use of these cameras, both on our officers and vehicles. Utilizing Axon systems for this purchase not only allows for our officers to be equipped with the best equipment out, but also allows the city to have the valuable assistance built into the cloud-based storage system. Axon also offers a tremendous amount of add-ons, such as unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, or drones, automatic license plate readers, and the ability to live stream the camera from the field to a remote command center to have decisions made in a more efficient way. Overall, it allows for a smaller agency like ours to operate at a safer and more efficient level. I, along with the Galt Police Officers Association representatives, have met with the police administration. Speaking with Chief Kalinowski and Lieutenant Small, I'm excited and grateful for the opportunity to collaborate on creation of the policies which will be implemented for the use of these body-worn cameras. With the City Council's blessing, a vote for purchase of the camera system from Axon will boost the police department to being even closer to the now expected industry standard. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Little. We appreciate those comments. Do we have any additional hands raised online, Rose?
No other hands raised.
Okay, and still no written, no emails?
No.
We will entertain emails coming in. If someone's watching and they would like to email a comment on the subject, you're more than happy to send something in before we conclude this item. So we will go back and start with council comments. We'll start with our Vice Mayor, Mr. Sandu. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Give me the opportunity. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Interim Chief Mr. Kalinowski, bring that report or bring that agenda item to front of the council. And this in a report is very detailed report, is very transparent like a report. I maybe have a, just for the clarification, few comments. First of all, this body worn camera, in-car cameras, I believe the body worn camera could be more transparency and accountability. Transparency and accountability is a big discussion throughout the nation, and we see every day. And I also believe this body worn camera are the beneficial for the department and the beneficial to the public. I like that agenda item bring to the council. And the most other important thing, any employee, especially this department is very important department for the city. Anybody, they need to work, they need the tools. This is the tool they can use for the transparency, for the accountability. And that's very important to me at this time I'm looking at. The other thing is I was very much happy on the report, and I just want a clarification from the chief. I want to make sure Galt Police management working with these Galt Police associations, and I see on the report. I just want to make sure, confirm it, because this anything implementation they already be communicate, and I believe Mr. Klasky, you already communicate with the president, right? That's what.
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, that is correct. We've committed to work with the POA. That was the genesis for the request regarding the smartphones. And we know that the success of this program is based on the collaborative approach with the POA so that we have buy-in and consistency in its use. So everybody I've talked to in the organization is optimistic about the program, and we're excited about the opportunity to move forward.
Thank you. And then my next, just a clarification on the report. I'm looking at, we're going to convert one of the position from the dispatcher to the analyst. And I just want to make sure you communicate with Galt Police Civilian Association. You know, when the position modified or changed, we want to make sure, is these, association are understand why we are made. And there is room to improve. I does not personally cut down any position if absolutely is these associations are happy. But you communicating with them, there is a report there. Also, I just want to make sure the clarification on that.
Yes, and we will continue to evaluate the staffing and workloads because we do not want to burn our staff out, and we don't want to compromise those first responders on the phone. So we've committed to Laura Sotelo, who's the president, and Valerie Howman, who's the vice president, in the meeting I had with them, that if the need for the 9th position needed to come back, that I would work with City Hall to address that issue. So we did some work on that and comparing other size cities. And it's my sense that when we get to somewhere in the range of 32 to 35,000 population in this city, there will be the need for additional dispatch staff in the building. But if we staff those 8 positions with that supervisor, we will have adequate staffing to do our jobs in the short term. And I don't see the need in the next 5-year period for adding that additional staffing unless something unforeseen occurs. And I don't see epic growth occurring. And I don't see epic crime waves occurring in the community where our call volume is going to go up, because it's been steady over the last 5 years.
Thank you. And then my last question, just a clarification. I know as a police management, you guys approach to the different camera system. And when you approach to the different camera system, you're looking what our needs are and what our quality, what the reputation of these companies. Can you might be explain me in a brief why you choose to Exxon, and a little bit might be if you have another company you already discussed with them, why you not choosing the other company? Oh.
So in our evaluation, which frankly has gone on for several years, we've had fits and starts with body-worn cameras for at least the last 4 or 5 years that I can think of, where we've evaluated different camera systems. For us, the ability for the automatic activation of all weapons, so that was your handgun, which other systems offer, but the activation of that taser and the automatic activation of that body-worn camera is important for us, because I did not want to get into a place where sometimes the camera activates, but sometimes it doesn't, on certain pieces of equipment and not others. So this ensures that the first priority for the officers, if they're transitioning through uses of force from a taser to a handgun, we haven't missed a piece of that incident when only, let's say, the taser was deployed, but the camera wasn't activated. Also, as Officer Little indicated, Axon brings other opportunities for this organization, specifically a drone program, which we don't have, that they offer. And evidence.com has other potential future uses for us where, for example, although we have not purchased that product yet, there would be the ability for the community to upload videos directly into evidence.com on our behalf. We're not going to go there yet, but there are those abilities to do that. And then lastly, Axon, in my opinion, has been aggressive about changing or improving its software abilities. We're going to be using the Body 3 camera, which is the most, up-to-date, newest product that they have. We're using Fleet 2 for the in-car cameras, but they, at the end of this year, will be launching Fleet 3. And the difference between Fleet 2 and Fleet 3, in addition to having the ability to have more cameras with Fleet 3, is that you can add or have the ability to have the license plate reader program available to you. So we have that on some of our vehicles, but this would allow all vehicles to have the ability at least in the front facing, if we're only doing 2 cameras, the ability to do license plate reading. So I just felt like, and I don't even feel like, I know, talking to my counterparts in other agencies, that I would call this the gold standard, and it gives us the ability to build for the future. So that's why working with Lieutenant Small and myself and former Chief Sockman, this was the platform we were most interested in. So I hope I answered your question, but that's the reasons for our decisions.
Yeah, thank you for all the clarification.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're off, Sean.
All right, Councilmember Papanow.
Thank you. And thank you, Chief, for the very detailed presentation. And I'm not going to be redundant with what the Vice Mayor asked and commented on, and everything you presented as to the benefits, needs, and values of the systems. It is the industry standard. And I would venture to say in California, if there's an agency 2-3 years down the road from now that doesn't have this technology, would probably be considered negligent, both by the community and by the officers, and be subject to some legal action. So I'm glad to see that we're moving forward. I'm glad to see that you've, as you noted, we're not the first one doing this. In the last 28 years, from the inside, I've seen law enforcement go from zero technology to where we are now, including that very bumpy road when this first started. Primarily concerns with privacy rights and concerns of employee groups as to how management will use the technology. So I'm pleased to see the cooperative work between both the administration and both associations, and the not reinventing the wheel, if you will, and working with the lessons learned, and, as you say, going with the gold standard. And I do believe that you've chosen the state-of-the-art equipment. So I do not have any questions about it, and I will pass it on to the next council member.
Thank you, Councilmember Papanow. Councilmember Vandenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief Kalinowski, for looking at all aspects of this financially and how it affects different parts of the community and the police department itself. I just have one question. How does, I realize that the amount of money we're taking out of Measure R, and I don't have a problem with that, but how does that affect the fund balance moving forward?
So I will pitch this to Claire, who did a lot of work to help me out on this. And so I think she has the best information. Obviously, she watches the checkbook, so.
Yes, I do. So currently the fund balance is pretty high. We've made attempts over the last few years to spend one-time money using Measure R funds for the police department. But because of vacancies that occur in all of the police department, including Measure R, we really haven't dug into that fund balance. So there's a portion of this first year that is ongoing costs. We don't have any concerns about that causing any kind of problems to the ongoing financial balance. The fund balance is ample to support the one-time costs in this proposal.
Maybe I could frame that question a little differently.
Okay.
Right now, there's 1.3, a little over 1.3 million in Measure R, and you're going to use a little over 200,000 in years. So that puts it just over $1 million in years 2, 3, and 4. Is that going to be under $1 million, under $500,000 because we keep pulling out of it, or is it basically going to, stay even?
Based on this proposal and this program, we don't anticipate that this will draw down the fund balance anything further than that first year.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lozano.
Yeah, and truly in the interest of being redundant, I will be short. I do want to thank Chief Kalinowski for answering all of my questions, both offline chatting as well as tonight. One of the concerns I had was I wanted to ensure that whatever internal information technology needs that they had as it relates to the network or anything like that that we're taking care of. But it sounds like it's going to be cloud-based, and so we'll be good there. I just have a couple of things, and for full disclosure, I did have quite a lengthy meeting with Officer Little, the president of POA, over the weekend about this subject, and so a lot of my decision making comes from that conversation. I'm excited that the POA is on board and is excited about being a part of the policy discussion. I think that's important, and I think that we're not finally, but this is a huge step of providing our officers the tools they need to do their job, to protect themselves as well as the community, and I'm excited about that. Finally, I'll just say it. I mean, other than MDTs in a car, I mean, this is bringing technology to our officers, and I think it's awesome. So, just a couple of points I wanted to make. One of the things is, we talk about transparency and accountability, and what I think the public and maybe even our staff here or colleagues may believe is accountability and transparency of officers' conduct. And I want to just put another perspective on that. I think it's also transparency and accountability for our community. Officers work every day, day in and day out. And I'll tell you, our officers are very fortunate to work in Galt because we have some awesome community members that are very supportive. But also this is, in my opinion, transparency and accountability of the public. When they make accusations about officers, we will have the technology to either support that claim or, take a little bit less time investigating something that may or may not be accurate. And I only say that because I've been involved in situations where complaints have come forward that were either exaggerated or totally untrue, and it provides a lot of stress for officers. So when we talk about accountability and transparency, it is for officer conduct, but also it's for the conduct of the community. I think that a couple just real quick points, more points, is body-worn cameras and in-car cameras. At least my perspective is that it doesn't always give you the exact 360-degree view of an incident that occurs. And so I think the community's expectation should be that a body-worn camera is going to give you whatever view it's going to give you. Remember that that camera is not going to have the officer's peripheral vision recorded, and some of those other things they may hear or see that is out of view of camera. Hopefully other cameras are there to pick it up, but just know that at least is something to consider when this happens. And so it provides a different perspective. And then lastly, I think the collection of evidence is really, really important here. I mean, this could be the difference between less time spent in court, things like that. And so for at least the evidence piece, I think that's important. It's also important to remember that, officers still have to write reports. The camera's not going to catch everything, and they have to, that's part of the evidence collection process. And so I'm excited about this. I thank you, Chief Kalinowski, for bringing this forward. At this point, I'm excited that the officers, the Peace Officers Association leadership is going to be involved in it, and has been involved in it, quite honestly. And I think it's a big morale boost for our folks that are here. So thank you for that. I will leave it to other council member. Actually, I think just the mayor's left. And so, but I would like the opportunity to move the item once we're ready. So thanks.
I will give you that courtesy, Mr. Lozano. So again, not to try to reiterate what a lot of my council members have said, they've all touched on points that, that I'm sure we all think alike when it comes to subjects like this. Just some quick, I'm sure I too had conversations with our chief this afternoon, our city manager, and also had some conversations with some other agencies who I have contacts with, and they're actually using Axon. I wanted to find out more about the product. And they are, like I said, they are the gold standard, it appears, in the industry. And so I had another agency I talked to that they said that they actually were using something different and they transitioned to Axon recently. So, in regards to the GPOA, when I met with Officer Little as well, the president of the obviously all the council members wanted to talk to the officers because we want to get a feel from the inside of the department how they feel about this. And I too was pleasantly surprised on how supportive they were of it. And the side of it I think that a lot of people pay attention to is it's not about just recording an incident. It's when you're on camera, you tend to want to be more professional because you're being held to a higher standard, so to speak. And I think that the people that are being on camera, if they're taking a statement from somebody or a witness or somebody's reporting something, and they know they're being recorded, they know they're cognizant of that, I think. So I think it really goes a long way beyond just we're going to record an incident for evidence. With that said, I did have a couple of technical questions, and Mr. Kalinowski answered lots of them this afternoon, but I had a couple just because we have our gentleman from Axon on here. So I have a little bit of network background. So I know, the strength of a network is only as only as strong as its weakest link. So could you tell me just briefly, without, boring us with or the audience with a lot of technical stuff, I just was curious about the redundancy. I know in your contract, it talks about using third-party cloud storage, and which means, it's not going to be you guys, but you guys subcontract that. Could you tell me briefly about the strength of that and the redundancy that you have in that, is it Mahan?
Sure is,
Ro-
Mayor. Sure
Okay.
is. Thank you very much. And first, just let me thank you for allowing me to participate tonight, Mayor, City Manager Hines, and the rest of the council members. So I can assure you, there's over 8,000 agencies that are on the Axon platform around the country and now around the world. We use Microsoft Azure, which is by far separated itself as the most secure platform for cloud-based storage. Everything that we're doing with Axon is all encrypted until it reaches evidence.com. So unbelievably secure, CJIS compliant to the highest FBI level.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So and also has there been any instances where, because one concern of mine was, because I don't know if you're aware of this, but we recently had, a ransomware attack in the city of Galt, which was, really hit our IT infrastructure really hard. And I'm sure you guys, being the reputation that you have, you guys are, on point with that. But I just concern myself, by reading through your contract, which was like, 47 pages, I think it was pretty lengthy.
Sure.
I see the normal stuff in there where if this happens, we're not responsible for that, and so on and so forth. But I just worry that, so the docking stations that are going to be at the station where each officer comes in and they dock their cameras, is there going to be some internal peripherals or something that you guys are going to put in place? Like, are you guys going to set up like a separate VLAN or something on the network that exists at the police department that you guys operate off of, or are you going to be piggybacking on the stuff that we have in-house?
So yeah, that's a great question. So we'll definitely be piggybacking off what you have. Each agency is a little bit different. But like I said, everything is completely secure, CJIS compliant. Everything on the body cameras is encrypted until it's actually uploaded to evidence.com. So even if somebody got a hold of a body camera, they couldn't see anything unless that camera was linked to that account in evidence.com.
Okay. And then next is a training question, and the the chief did answer this earlier, but I wanted to just touch on it for the sake of the audiences. So you actually will come in and train the trainers. So your staff will come in and train someone internally, and then our internal person will be the one who's the person that trains our officers, however long that takes, and any ongoing updates with software or hardware or whatever, that person, I'm assuming that person would be retrained or updated on those things.
Yes. So the first part of your question there, we have pro services reps that are Axon reps. They fly out to the agency on the day of deployment. They spend the entire day doing body camera training, evidence.com training. There is, as you asked about, train the trainer segment. So any officers that can't make the live session, those individuals that from command staff would be able to train those officers as well as future officers. So what we really want to do is just ensure that it's an extremely smooth deployment. And then I'm sorry, what was the what was the second part of the question there?
It was that if there's any software, I read a lot about if there's software upgrades or hardware.
Thank
upgrades.
you. Yep. So one of the other things is once you come on board with Axon, you're assigned a dedicated account manager. That manager is your go-to agency point of contact. They will know the agency like the back of their hand. So they'll be there for any future training, any future needs, any software updates, anything like that. We're going to ensure that that's all done. And most of those updates, most of those firmware updates are done automatically. It's not anything manually that you have to do. Just when those firmware updates are rolled out, the very next time an officer docks their camera, it's automatically updated.
Okay. And then last thing, which Chief could have answered, but I guess you can since I got you on, is there was a brief discussion about how they operate and things. And although there was mention about the camera, the in-car camera activating when someone's either when the car is either at a certain speed or when they go lights and sirens. That doesn't mean that, I mean, there's their ability for the officer to actually activate the camera beyond those circumstances manually.
Most definitely. So it's a double click of the body camera, and the same thing with the in-car camera. The in-car camera has Axon View, which is our software component that'll be on there. So with just a touch of the screen, we can also activate the in-car cameras. But with the signal activation, in most cases, the body camera is automatically activated.
Okay. And then the cameras too, then they're not just, the body cameras are not just, I mean, there was talk of that they're automatically, activated when the taser is pulled or a firearm. But the officer has a discretion. If he's having a conversation with someone, he can activate that camera just to record a conversation. It doesn't have to be in an instance where there's being force used or something, right? I just want to clarify that for people that are watching.
Most definitely. So it's a simple double click of the body camera to activate the body camera at any time.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate this answer. I just trying to, I think people are fascinated with how this stuff works, and this is new technology to our community. So I think I just wanted to kind of flesh out some of those interesting things about the system that maybe people are wondering. So thank you, Tom, for your time here tonight. I appreciate you last minute making yourself available. So I only have a couple last questions, which are for staff. One is, our Mr. Vandenberg touched on it briefly. This is coming from Measure Our Money, and I want to remind people, just for those out there not familiar with, Measure R is a sales tax, a special tax bond that you guys passed, the citizens of Galt, in 2008. So this is your money at work. This is your half-cent tax that only Galt pays for this particular thing. This is your tax money at work. This is what we do with these funds, and I think it's important that you all understand that the power of things like that and what they can do for the community when it may not otherwise been possible. But I have a question about Measure R. If actually Mr. Kalinowski or Claire could answer twofold. One is, was this ever presented, just as a heads up? I know that they're not policymakers, but I would assume, or maybe I'm wrong, that you guys briefed the Measure R committee that you were going to be bringing this to council at some point, just so because they are the oversight committee. I mean, I'm sure they were knowledgeable of that.
If this is approved this evening, they have a meeting on the 28th of this month, and this will be provided to them.
Okay, well, I get that. I was just more like, because they're oversight, I mean, once the council approves it, it doesn't really matter what they think. I was just wondering if they were giving up like a heads up and saying, hey, this is something that we're going to be doing. I was just curious if that was ever done or if it was policy. I'm not saying it should have been. I just ethically, I feel like it should have been. It's just a question.
Chief, you want to handle that since it's a program update?
Mr. Mayor, typically we try to present the significant policy issues to the council first, because this is the ultimate body for policy decisions in the city. Once we get the council's buy-in, we will brief the Measure R committee as to this program. I imagine members of that committee are watching tonight, and so we will be sure to brief those folks. But typically, we bring this issue directly to the council because of its significance and its citywide impact. And that's why we're bringing it to you first. And that's typically our policy with all commissions and committees. We like to bring it to you all first, and then we'll brief the commissions and committees. I don't foresee that the Measure R committee will have an issue with this. And given the council's standing in relation to the other committees and commissions, I don't think that the Measure R committee will have an issue with us bringing it to you first.
Yeah, and I don't think, I'm pretty confident they don't have a problem with it either, but I'm just, and I don't want to dig into this question too much, but I just want to say that that's actually not exact. So, things come to the planning commission before they come to us. They actually come to a lot of commissions before they come to us. That's kind of how it works. So in the spirit of oversight is actually where, they are the citizens' oversight on that money. So I just, it was almost like, for future reference, it would be kind of like, hey, we presented this to the Measure R oversight, because they are the oversight on the money, they gave their blessing on it. They thought it was a great idea. It's kind of nice to know that because, they are the oversight. They are our eyes and ears on that. I think for us to approve something, which again, I don't think they're going to have a problem with it. And clearly tonight looks like we're in full support of this, and I support it as well. I think that it's kind of almost pointless if we approve it and then you go back and say, hey, by the way, Measure our oversight people, we did this. So, I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of oversight. I don't want to kick that subject, but this maybe can continue another time. But I just want to state that I feel like the Measure R is a little bit different than any other thing we got going on with other commissions and committees. It's an oversight, not just some, whatever committee that's meant to whatever. So with my last question with that, and if you can't provide this for me right now, that's fine. You can get back to me, but I just wanted, just for my own knowledge and for the council, if we could maybe get an updated list of where we stand with the positions, like which positions exist in Measure R. Like we have 2 officers and 3 dispatch or whatever, so that we kind of know where we're at, because I know that things have been changed and stuff, and I'm kind of losing track, to be honest, with how many positions we have at each. So an updated list of, as this point, if we approve this tonight, this is the positions we currently have in Measure R. I don't know if you have that now. If you don't, then you could get it to us later.
Well, I can verbally tell you that, and we will give you a chart that has that information on it. But we have 7 officer positions available to fill. 6 of those are filled. We have 1 opening, that's in the detective's position. We have 2 dispatchers, 1's filled, 1 we're converting tonight. Then we have half FTE in the records, which we've had for several years. And we have the professional standards officer that's funded with Measure R program money. So those are the positions that are currently funded. And then obviously the second dispatcher converts to the admin analyst in Measure R with this action tonight if it goes through.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That's very helpful. I just want to kind of have that. So as we go forward, if we're doing anything with positions with the council has the authority to do that, I kind of know where we stand. So maybe at some point get that out to the council, all the members of the council, so they have that updated list. That would be awesome. Thank you for those. So yeah, again, I support this. I think it's great. I think it has everything to do with transparency in this town. People will say, oh, do we need some, Galt is the small little whatever, but like Mr. Papanow said, I agree. And he's in law enforcement. Councilman Lozano and Papanow both are from law enforcement backgrounds, so they would know more than all the rest of us that this is something that's been a long time coming and needed. And I just, I wore my Kevin Ton pin tonight just to remind me of how, important things like the decisions like this are for our department and how they can really, save lives and create transparency in the community. So with that, I think I will get off my soapbox here. And is there any hands raised online from the public, Rose?
Excuse me, there is currently no hands raised.
Okay, and any emails came in while we were discussing, Ms. Hubert?
Yes, we have one written comment from Ralph Cortez.
Okay.
Will cameras be applicable to our canines? Is this something Axon offers?
I'm gonna have to punt to Tom because we did not talk about outfitting the actual canines themselves.
Yeah, that's a great question by the citizen there, by the way. So we have a couple options. We can use the Body 3 on canines. We can also use the Flex 2 camera, which is a point of view camera. It can be mounted in multiple ways. It's very popular with tactical teams, motorcycle officers, lots of different mounting options, and there are harnesses we can set up and collars that we could actually mount a camera on a canine.
Thank you, Tom. And that was a great question, Mr. Cortez. Thank you for bringing that forward to us. Is there any other comments, last minute comments from members of council before I move to look for a motion? No? Okay. Well, as promised, I will entertain a motion if Mr. Councilor Lozano, if you would like to move this item forward, and the action would be to adopt a resolution approving an initial 5-year contract with Axon Enterprises Incorporated to purchase body-worn in-camera and in-car cameras, along with the associated software, authorizing the city manager to execute agreement in the amount of $496,000 for a period of 5 years from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th of 2026. Number 2, converting one Measure R police dispatcher position to a position of administrative analyst 1/2. And number 3, adjusting fiscal year 2021-22 appropriations in Measure R Fund 047 to the amount of $223,010 and General Fund 001 in the amount of $18,180 for the first year of the body worn and in-car camera program.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Lozano.
Second.
I'm going to give the second to Councilor Papanow, and I will ask for a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Papineau,
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano,
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Yes. Item passes 5-0. Thank you for the presentation, Chief Kalinowski, and it looks like Tom already signed up, but thank you again to him for his time.
Thank you.
All right, without further ado, we will move on to our next item, which is from our Public Works Department, and it is our C Street Enhancement Project CIP 520F Consultant Contract Award.
Great, thank you, Mayor, and good evening, and fellow council members. Mike Selling, your Public Works Director. I'll share my screen here. Hang on a second. And let's see. Okay. Is it showing full screen? There we go.
There you go.
There we go. All right, great. All right, so the item before you tonight for your consideration and approval is a consulting contract for the engineering and outreach efforts associated with the C Street Enhancements Project. Given the importance of this project, I have a brief presentation for you. So the project limits shown here are from 6th Street on the left or the west side over to Civic Drive on the east side. And as you will note, there are essentially 2 distinct areas with Lincoln Way as the point where the road right-of-way changes. And that's essentially the orangish color, I guess you'll say, on the right to the green or aqua blue color on the left. So a little bit of background on this project. Planning efforts were started way back in 2008, and the project was initially part of the city's Central Galt Complete Streets project back in 2016. However, it wasn't included in the construction contract at that time due to a lack of sufficient funding as the construction bids came in much higher than anticipated. So this segment on C Street was removed from the Complete Streets project. However, the city did not give up and was awarded $2.5 million for construction for this segment by SACOG, the Sacramento Area Council of Governments, in 2018. And we anticipate that this $2.5 million for construction will be programmed later in 2022, next year. So this slide conceptually shows what the street cross-section was envisioned to look like. And I want to note that this concept was developed for the segment really from Lincoln to 6th Street only. Also, to implement this throughout the full project, if we were to do this from the whole Civic Drive to 6th Street, would cost us probably another roughly, I don't know, I'd say $4 to $5 million or so. And obviously we don't have those additional funds. So given the $2.5 million grant limitation that we are working with, we'll be utilizing that money to provide landscaped medians, decorative lighting, as you can kind of see on this conceptual cross section, improved bike lanes, and sidewalk and pavement repairs. So some of the project keys. We'll need to review and update the project design to make sure we meet current standards, as well as other potential changes that may be desired, and those may come through the outreach efforts. This contract does include a significant public outreach component, which will include specific engagement with the fronting businesses and property owners. The project does not require any additional right-of-way, so we'll need to make sure that any changes don't trigger the need for additional right-of-way. And then lastly, we'll be working with the consultant as well as the property owners and business owners to minimize the construction impacts to their operations once construction actually starts. So the schedule. The consultant contract is tonight's council item, and then once in place, if approved by the council tonight, the design and outreach efforts would begin roughly next month or so once the contract's all executed, and be completed in about a year from now, so April 22. Then we'll move forward with advertising the project, and then once we have confirmation from SACOG on the funds being programmed and available, we'll award the construction contract. There's usually a couple of months or so in between awarding the contract and the construction starting, and that's really for the contractor to order their materials and just get all their construction logistics in place. And then as far as timing on the actual construction itself, I would estimate probably in the 3 to 4 month time range. And there's always the weather caveat on that. So because we'll be getting late into the year around that time. So, but hopefully we could get it done before the rains start in earnest. So with that, that concludes my brief presentation on this project, and staff and I, Mr. Clarkson, are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sully.
I can stop sharing here. And I'm struggling with that. I can't. I don't know, Rose, if you may be able to help me with that.
Yeah, if you hover over the top, you should see somewhere, if you hover over the very top.
Yeah.
Stop participants sharing. How's that? There we go.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I think we will start with public comment. Do we have any written public comment on this?
I do have written comment. This one is from Rose Levine. I would like to express my concern for the proposed C Street improvements that are being planned. Businesses need to be informed as to what is planned as far as design and construction interruptions. My business is located on C Street along with many others, and parking will be an issue. I like the idea of trees and wider sidewalks, but not a fan of center divides and no street parking. And that is it.
Thank you, Ms. Levine. Do we have any hands raised online, Rose?
We do not have any hands raised online.
Okay. Then I will go to the council and we'll take comments from council. We'll start with Vice Mayor Sandu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you, Mr. Salin, give us that report on this CIP project. I have a couple maybe question or some concern or comment. First of all, this project wasn't back in 2008 when the central overpass, right? That's the part of that project, right?
I believe so. Mr. Clarkson may be able to better answer that question.
Yeah, this is Mr. Clark. This is Clarkson. Back when the Central Galt interchange was done, the planning for the C Street, Complete Street process began, and that included Lincoln and a few other streets in that area. But it was delayed. The C Street improvements were delayed because they wanted to get the construction of the overpass done first and then to come back and revisit it. Nobody knew at that time that we would lose all types of redevelopment funds and not be able to do it. And nobody could predict the future, but that's what stopped us from moving forward on C Street after the interchange was completed.
Thank you, Mr. Clarkson. The other thing is, this design, whatever they proposed in back in 2008, why it was not in the report? I just see from the slide. I don't know, I might be missing something, or the other council map, these design on the CST, this is not in the report. I don't know, maybe some other council member, they might be took that from the website, but I don't get a chance. So is there something missing or?
No, no, this item was really just the consultant contract award. And so we did not include that in the item packet.
Okay.
So when it was, I'm sorry. Yeah. When it was pulled from the consent item to put on the department, we put together the presentation. So I apologize, Vice Mayor.
Okay. My concern is there might be, that item approved back in 2008, but it is much better, there's some kind of update or changes so we can see is because there is, 10 back in 2008 is 13 years ago. There is something proved with the council. I like to honor them, but I also like to see there is something changing on the C Street, how that will work or not. That's my reason was asking, I don't get the chance to review that. Okay, then the other my just question is, this $498,000. This is the just a consulting firm. What their responsibility and what can be their job?
Yeah, this is for their contract, and it does include a bit of a contingency. I think there's roughly about $30,000 as potential for any unforeseen things that may come up in the process. But essentially, the contract is for them to basically review the design and revise it. Like I said, there's a very robust public outreach component to their contract. So we'll be meeting, with all the businesses and property owners along the limits. Talking about, not only as the one business owner in the comment indicated was, what are going to be the construction impacts and how to minimize those so that way customers can get to their business while the construction's going on. But also even before that, where are the medians going to be located and where might there be changes in where people can, access existing driveways. Right now with no medians out there, you basically can access from any direction, left, right turns, even crossing movements in some cases. So with medians, there are going to be some loss of access. So we'll definitely want to, go over that with them and make sure that, everybody understands and hopefully, is in agreement as to, where those medians are located.
Oh, thank you. And then
This is Clarkson. May I interject on something? Vice Mayor Sando, you had a terrific statement when you said that this project 13 years ago it was done. There was a vision at that time and a lot of energy in this, in upfront energy we're going to be putting into it is to revisit the proposed design and layout back in 2008 and make changes the way that the city council and the way that the customers out there are looking for at this time, because we know there are changes that have happened. And so we're going to address all of the concerns and address, you know, if we're going to look at changing some parts of the, you know, the layout from the initial to what we're going to come up with today as a group, as a team, with all of the property owners out there, the businesses, city council, planning commission. You know, there's a lot of energy going to be put into that to get to you know, look at all different alternatives, come up what is the best for right now, and then go forward with that. So it's a lot of energy up front before we start designing.
Thank you. You know, Mr. Clausen, that's the biggest. My concern is 13 years ago, whatever approved, it might be some of the component on that plan might be not feasible in this time. But I don't. That's why until I don't see it, I don't heard from the business people on the C street. It's very hard to make a decision. And then you are telling me we have the opportunity to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Then Mr. Selling, the other question is, I know you guys interview around 6 RFP, right? On
Correct.
consulting firm, right?
Correct.
And after that, you decided there is 2 companies, they are at the last interview, right?
Correct.
These 2 were Pasomas and GHD, right?
Correct.
Okay. And can you a little bit tell me why you pick up so much over the GHD? Because GHD also did some other project with us, right?
Yeah, actually, they do have, I think, a current contract.
Carillion Boulevard also, they did that too, right?
Carillion, they did, and actually, yeah, they are also on the Walnut preliminary document.
My just question is, when you know, when you guys make a decision to give a contract to somebody, there might be something with the qualification and cost effective as a financing, what they will come. What was the reason, if you can brief me?
Yeah, I'll defer to Mr. Clarkson, but first, just as a general sense, yeah, when we look at proposals that are provided by various, you know, in this case, engineering consultants for a particular contract, we definitely look at their qualifications. I can tell you right off the bat. I mean, we don't want to work with people that we feel aren't qualified to do the work. So that's one of the first key things. You know, it's a public contract. It's not like a construction bid, you know, where we open the bids and it's the lowest bidder kind of thing. Basically, for professional services, you can't open, you know, essentially their fee proposal. What we can do is we can look at the number of hours and the appropriate level of staffing that they're, you know, proposing, and we can, you know, somewhat get a sense of you know, are they assigning the right level of folks and the right number of hours to get the job done, consistent with what we think that the effort's going to take. So we look at that as well. But it's only once we, you know, fully evaluate the proposals on all the merits, do they, you know, like in this case, we emphasize that there is the need for a very robust community outreach effort involved in this project, and want to make sure that that comes across in their proposal as well. So those are the, you know, and every job is different, so we're looking sometimes for slightly different things. But with that, I mean, that's just in general, and then I'll defer to Mr. Clarkson as he was on the committee that reviewed the proposals for more specifics in this case.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Clarkson. What we had some really good proposals by the companies out there, and when we, you know, as Mr. Selling indicated, we look at a lot of features, a lot of parts of the packages that they have. GHD and Somas kind of rose to the top because of the teams that they put together, not only their design unit, but more importantly, their outreach team that they had assembled. Recently, Somas had completed several of these type of projects that are done in business areas that are needing improvement, and going through their RFP, going through their proposal and and their presentation. We feel that it's going to be a good fit for the city. They do a lot of one-on-one reach out, just not having workshops, but they actually, have shown, and we did it when we did some review on them from other cities that they have been part of, that they knock on doors, they talk with people constantly, and during the design and also during construction, they get to know all of the business people out there, along with staff does that too, but it just seems that there's a little bit more experience that they have in doing that outreach to the public. And this is going to be a real sensitive area, not only during the planning portions, but definitely during construction, to make sure that we minimize our impacts to the community out there.
All right, thank you, Mr. Clarkson. Now I understand what was the reason. Thank you. So now I let the other person go. If I have any question, I will come back.
All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Papineau, do you have any comments on this item?
Well, my main concern after reviewing it was the outreach to the public, and particularly the input regarding the design from merchants and businesses. And I think that's been addressed and obviously is a priority part of the contract. One thing that popped up, just to clarify, during the PowerPoint was an asterisk, and it said pending funding programming by SACOG. And just to clarify, that's just a timing thing, not an if thing.
Correct. Yeah, we definitely have the appropriation, but we basically have to wait for SACOG to say that, okay, we've programmed the funding and it's there. And that's a requirement before you can award a construction contract. You basically have to have the money in place. So we anticipate that will occur sometime probably in the August, September timeframe next year, council member. And so that's what's noted on the schedule. But yeah, I did want to put that asterisk because if something hiccups or, that the funding gets delayed a little bit, I just wanted to be upfront about that potential. It's a very small likelihood, but there's always that chance kind of thing. So.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And I just wanted to clarify that we're not going to spend $500,000 making a plan and then the funding's not there. It's just a matter of it potential delay. So appreciate that.
Correct.
And that's the only thing I have right now. I'll pass it on.
Thank you. Councilmember Vandenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel like we're coming in on the back end of this, and we're asked to approve something. We really didn't get to, see a design of any sort other than the presentation that you just showed us, but was not in my packet. So that bothers me a little bit. I'm very concerned about the street parking along there. A lot of the businesses have limited parking as it is, such as the Frosty, to steal, people being able to turn left into their parking lot, the few slots they have, or a loss of parking for them could really hurt. If I remember correctly, in 2008, it really hurt some of the businesses. And I think some of them actually went out of business because of the construction and how it was implemented. So I wish we would have had more heads up, a fuller view of what is about to happen or we're going to vote on.
Yeah, no, I guess what I would say is the project has been programmed in the capital improvement program, and so this is just the construction contract. While there was a design previously, and that's kind of where our consultant will start from. But again, it's been a long time, as the Vice Mayor noted, and standards have changed, businesses have changed, and so there may be different things that we want to do now that either people didn't think of back then, or just want to see something different than what was originally designed. So through this outreach effort, you'll definitely have an opportunity to to see it before anything's approved as far as a final design, if you will.
So what will happen is fully flexible.
Yes. Within the confines of the funding, which is essentially the limits of the project.
Right, I understand that.
Right.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Vandenberg. Councilmember Lozano.
Yeah, again, the interest of not being redundant, I just have a couple of questions. Mr. Selling, the consultant that you're asking for the contract to be approved for is going to design a project.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't necessarily have a plan that you would provide other than a conceptual drawing from several years ago.
Correct. Mr. Clarkson may be able to expand on that a bit. My understanding was, I believe there was a design because the project was included in that Central Galt Streets Improvements project. However, due to the lack of funding, it didn't go forward. It was removed. So there was a design at that time. However, again, here we are, 5-ish years later, and just to kind of take another look and maybe the bulk of it, will remain, and then we'll do little tweaks or whatnot, or maybe there are some potential substantial changes. And again, so until we really, start to get into the process with the consultant, time will tell basically how much may change. But with that, I don't know, Mr. Clarkson, is that accurate?
Partly. The design that was completed was between Lincoln and 6th Street.
Oh, right.
And so we may or may not use parts of that design. We are, again, as indicated earlier, is that we're going to revisit the entire concept, go through workshops, go through outreach, and try to see which direction the community wants to move. And then if we can use part of that design, we will. If we can't, this proposal that we have in front of you right now for Somas can do it from scratch. We have enough money to do it from scratch if we find parts or most of that design is not relevant. So we have an open book here.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I have been aware of this impending desire to improve that area for as long as I've been on the council through the capital improvement program. But it might be a good idea maybe to have a workshop on the capital improvement program for our 2 new members, because I could see how that would catch you kind of off guard. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you wanting to update the plan or actually put a plan together that is a 2021 plan as opposed to way back when, and the connection to 6th Street I think is important as well. So I would just say this, and my last comment is this, and as Mr. Hines knows, I'm about public outreach, and in my mind, just so you all know where I'm at, public outreach isn't taking it to the beautification committee, to the planning commission, and to park and rec commission as an example. I'm not saying you would take them to all those. It is much more than that. It's going to a chamber event, maybe even a luncheon, and saying, hey, we want input from all the businesses, not just the ones on C Street, but maybe a focus group of C Street, what their parking needs are, all that stuff. So it's not just taking it to the committees and commissions that we appoint, but certainly trying to reach out, like Mr. Hines has done in his 8 months here, to address some of those needs, as well as get the input back from a larger group of people, cast a larger net, if you will. So that's all I have. I appreciate the thorough report, and I will pass it on.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Lozano. Yeah, so I too, just to touch on kind of some things that were said. Yeah, I was kind of puzzled why the report wasn't in there. I understand that originally it was a consent, and we moved it when Mr. Hines and I had our agenda review. We decided to put it as to put it as its own discussion item, which was clearly a good move. But I just thought too that there was no drawings in there, and I was looking at that late today, and I actually had to Google around and find the original 2008. And I vaguely remember this. Of course, I don't think the only person that was even here out of any of us might have been Miss Mendez, I believe, was part of that. I remember her, if I'm not mistaken, having some discussions with some business owners way back, and I was only involved because I was going to those meetings at the time when we were having discussions. And there was a lot of concerned people on C about having the center median and losing that suicide lane. and not being able to have people turn into their businesses and no way to make a U-turn. And so there was a lot of discussion, and I just vaguely remember that being the controversial piece of it. And there was a lot of talk back then. But again, that was 13 years ago. I think, and I actually looked at the presentation, not the presentation, but I looked at the conceptual drawings, and there was a conceptual drawing for all of C Street, even City Hall. There was even conceptual drawings for like the corner where the Kevin Tom Memorial is, which clearly wasn't there at the time. So it really, there was drawings. There was kind of a conceptual for all the way down. But I think that I think some of my concerns going into the meeting tonight were definitely answered by Mr. Selling and Mr. Clarkson, and I am very, very pleased to hear that even though there was something that we had that was drawn up in 2008, that we are going to not so much start from exact scratch, but we're going to say, okay, we do have this conceptual drawings. What of this is still relevant? What do we want to do? There's going to be extensive outreach, and I think everybody here has mentioned that we are going to hold feet to the flame with that, because I was going over my head as you other council members are talking, and I don't think, other than Miss Levine's office on C, I don't believe there's one single business that was even there or was owned by the same people that own it now, from probably the Save Mart Plaza all the way down into Old Town. Those are all either new owners, people, whatever. So I don't think any of those people have a clue of anything that was talked about or planned or drawn or anything. And so these people are in the dark completely. And so I think it's important we reach out, we hear their concerns like you're going to do. And I've seen, Mr. Clarkson reassured us that that's going to be a key component of it. I think is absolutely critical, because what we don't want to do is repeat what we did on Lincoln Way, which again, none of us were here then, but I remember it. The Lincoln Way project back in the 90s or whatever was kind of a disaster because people were upset. We lost a ton of parking. And it was meant to be good and improve the look, which it did, but the side effect was a lot of bad things that happened and there was businesses that suffered massively, and we don't want to go down that road again. And so I appreciate, the commitment from Mr. Selling and his staff, and from the city and the staff, all the staff that are going to be involved in this, to do that outreach and make sure that whatever we decide to beautify that area is going to be what everybody is going to like. And I know that can be a challenge sometimes, but it's important because these are businesses, and customers, and losing parking is a big deal. It's a very big deal. So on behalf of the business community, I think that all of us I think I could speak on behalf of the council that we all want to make sure the business community is heavily involved in this discussion. I think we've all echoed that tonight. So I thank you for my fellow council members for, pushing that point. So I don't really have any just questions about the design, because again, I think it's a moot point to talk about what I liked about the design thinking back, or what I saw today. I mean, I can go on and on about that. I don't think it's worth it, because we're all going to have business owners look at it, and we're going to have discussions and that. So I will go back to the council, or actually, is there any public comment since we've been talking about this, Ms. Hubert?
No written comment.
Okay. Rose, any hands raised online?
Yes, I do have a hand. I have Mr. Jerry Sauter.
Okay, Mr. Sauter, go ahead.
Mr. Sauter, you have 5 minutes. If you don't, thank you.
Thank you. I just had or wanted to share a concern, at least for what I see in the documentation that was included online for council. It says that the project is going to be 2.5 million from grant funds and 1.2 million of city funds. So if that's the case, and we're doing another one of these grant chasing projects where our tax dollars is going to have to foot the rest of the bill to make another complete street, then I do have some concerns with that, since I know that many members of the community continue to share their public safety concerns for numerous areas throughout Galt that don't seem to get addressed. So I'm really concerned if this proposal and the work that we're doing is going to have a deficit to the city in terms of funding, where the remaining amount of this project is going to come out of tax dollars that could be spent for other safety improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sauter. Mr. Selling, would you like to?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, so maybe this would help, put Mr. Sauter and the other folks who have similar concerns a little bit more at ease anyway. So these funds that the city would bring to match, typically on these transportation related grants, there is a local match component, meaning that whether it's the federal government or the state government or, even regionally, these grant programs, they want to know that the agency has some, skin in the game, if you will. So, so there is typically a match component. And because these dollars that we got from SACOG, they are purely for construction. So that means that we have to basically bring the money that's going to pay for the design, the outreach, the construction inspection, if you will. So anyway, that's the portion that's the city's. Now, the city's local funds that are paying for this comes out of essentially your gas tax money. So, and it flows in various ways. It's a bit complex, but anyway, so the Sacramento Area Council of Governments and the Sacramento Transportation Authority, STA, is where a lot of or I should not say SACOGs are the grant monies come from. Sorry for the confusion. STA is where the local match money is coming from. And so that's essentially the half-cent sales tax on gasoline that's applied to the region and flows through the Sacramento Transportation Agency, and then is distributed in various ways, sometimes grants, but there is a formulaic portion that every city and the county gets in Sacramento County. And those are the funds that we're talking about here for the local match portion.
Okay. Hopefully that answers your question, Mr. Sauter. So to kind of piggyback on that, does that mean, so coming out of gas tax money, is that measure A? Am I off on that?
Correct.
Okay. So, so is that, would that be money that Mr. Sauter was referring to where, that he feels that he was worried that we were spending money that could be used for other concerns of safety and roads? Is that the same kind of money, or are we talking about apples and oranges here?
So there's an alphabet soup, I guess, when it comes to transportation of different funds, and some have strings, most have strings. Measure A actually is relatively flexible, I guess I'll characterize it as. Typically, most agencies, like what we're doing here, will use it for their local match money to go after, bigger grant opportunities. It can be used for your routine maintenance. However, the legislature back in, I think it was 2017, passed SB 1, Senate Bill 1, which essentially the city gets some specific money for road maintenance and rehabilitation. We call it RMRA money. And that's the money that we typically use for the routine maintenance, filling potholes and, paving streets, that kind of thing. So a little bit different flavors of money, but so it's basically just trying to match, the best money that we can to what our needs are and what the grant opportunities are.
So I think the community, I'm trying to understand what concerns would be and what I might be hearing from the community going forward, is that I just think their concern is that, that we're about to, spend some money on something that's going to, I think is not a negative. It's, we're going to try to beautify the city, and we're going to try to do the best to create a gateway from, down to Old Tyre. Remember this whole purpose of this whole thing. But at the same time, people are going to be like, well, that's great, but are we spending money on that we could have done things over here where it's, where we need some stuff done to a street or whatever? So I'm just trying to understand that. Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah, that does, Mayor. And yeah, maybe to hopefully, clarify a little bit. This money, while it could be flexibly used for, routine street maintenance, we again want to maximize the use of it. And so if we can take some of it, in this case, maybe as much as $1.2 million of our money and get another $2.5 million, that's pretty good bang for your buck. Or you could just, spend the 1.2 on doing routine maintenance kind of thing. Now, again, I won't say we ever have sufficient money, but Galt, I would say, particularly coming from where I came from, our roads are in much better shape than most cities and counties in the state. We're pretty fortunate here, but we do have, again, I said that RMRA money, the road maintenance and rehabilitation money from SB 1, that we use as our, bread and butter maintenance revenue, if you will. So.
Okay, I'm going to take the question from Mr. Lozano. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I think I understood Mr. Sauter's question a little.
I think, yeah, we just want to be cognizant of our money. And I think that, again, what I'm happy the most about is that we are going to make sure that whatever this project is now, 13 years later, that it will be something that's going to be right for everybody that's going to be touched by it. So, yeah, I think that's, so did anybody have any comment? Mr. Sandu, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, the last my comment, I thank you for Mr. Selling and Mr. Clarkson. It's very clear what my intent is. But even this was not in the report, but I'm very much satisfied because it is going to come back to us. And especially, I was very happy. My question is why they choose the Personas over the other company. And I'm very much. That's the way, I'm to the biggest thing, their mind, and I think especially in my mind, community outreach and business outreach. And that's why I'm very happy to, take contract with Solis. Thank you. Then I support that too.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Some council member had a hand. No? Okay. Somebody had their hand up, I thought. Okay. Mike, did you have an additional comment or was that?
No, I think my microphone's just sensitive to my breathing or something.
Well, if we have no other council comment on this, and we have no hands raised online, Rose?
That is correct. No further hands raised.
Okay. Then I will, someone wants to make a motion to move this item forward. I will read the item. Hang on a second, I have to pull up that. We're looking for a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a consultant contract with Pasomas, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, in the amount of $498,156 for the C Street Enhancement Project, CIP 520F, with contingency of $29,844 for unanticipated costs. Anybody would like to make a motion? Moved by Vice Mayor Sandu.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Papanow.
Vice Mayor Sandu,
Aye.
Councilmember Papano,
Aye.
Councilmember Vandenberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Lozano,
Aye.
Mayor Farmer.
Aye. Item passes 5-0. And just a last note, please, for future, it would be helpful if we did have the presentation in the packet. That would have probably resolved a lot of questions in advance, I think. So, all right, thank you, staff, and thank you, Mr. Clarkson, for being on the call and clarifying a lot of our questions. Thank you, Mr. Selling. So we will now move on to item I, communication. Do we have any communication this evening, Ms. Hubert?
Not this evening.
Okay. And we'll move on to item J, which we will now adjourn the Galt City Council and convey to the Galt Successor Agency.
Board Member Sandu,
Aye.
Board Member Papano,
Here.
Board Member Vandenberg,
Here.
Board Member Lozano,
Here.
and Board Member Farmer.
Here. All right, item 2, public comment. Do we have any public comment this evening, Ms. Hubert?
We do not.
And do we have any hands raised online, Rose?
We do not.
Okay. Move on to item 3, our information consent agenda, which is the subject minutes of the December 1st, 2020 meeting, and action is accept the minutes as submitted. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Papanow. Seconded by Councilmember Lozano. Roll call vote, please.
Board Member Sandu,
Aye.
Board Member Papano,
Aye.
Board Member Vandenberg,
Aye.
Board Member Lozano,
Aye.
Board Member Farmer.
Aye. 5-0. Number 4, departmental. Subject is the successor agency, the City of Galt proposed 2021 tax allocation refunding bonds. Ms. Tyson?
Thank you very much, board members. The item before you is the beginnings of a refunding of some bonds that are part of the successor agency. And we have with us tonight the financial advisor on this team who's going to present for you. His name is Albert Pichet. We also have with us to answer any questions our bond and legal counsel for this project, David Farma. So I'm going to go ahead and start this presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Albert Pichet. I'm a municipal advisor, and I'll give you a little bit more about my firm a few slides down. And I also have with me Dave Fama from the law firm of Jones Hall, who is a bond counsel. Do we have the presentation, Claire?
You know, Rose, can you enable me?
Yeah.
So we have a brief presentation for you, which go about 10 minutes, and I think it'll answer a lot of your questions, and then we'll be glad to answer any more that you may have.
Go ahead, Claire. Thank you.
Okay, that's the last page. If we can go to the first page. Thank you. Thank you, Rose.
You're welcome.
Okay, so the second page. So as you may know, the former redevelopment agency issued bonds back in 2011. It issued 7.7 million of tax exempt tax allocation bonds, and also about $6 million of Series B taxable bonds. The Series A bonds were scheduled to mature in 2033, and the Series B bonds were scheduled to mature in 2026. Unfortunately, as you also may know, in 2011, the state of California ended redevelopment agencies, and all of the funds from redevelopment bonds were essentially frozen by the California State Department of Finance. So the 2011 bonds are now able to be called as of September the 1st, this September the 1st of 2021. And so very similar to how you might refinance a home mortgage, you replace existing debt with higher interest rates with new debt with lower interest rates, and the difference is your savings. So the bond savings is really going to result in a benefit, not just to the city, but also to the affected agencies by increasing their residual property tax trust fund monies that come back to them instead of going to pay the bonds. So if you'll turn to page 2, page 3 actually. So these are the affected agencies that, if you look at the bottom, they share the 1% tax, general property tax that gets collected on all assessed value taxable properties. So these are the agencies that would benefit by the refinancing. And I will just point out some of the larger ones that are in excess of $1 million. That would be the Galt Joint Union High School District, the elementary district, the county, the city of Galt, and the Consumnes CSD. But there are other agencies, as you can see here, that will benefit by the refinancing. And I want to stress, and I may say this again, this is going to be over a 10-year period. And a lot of the savings are really going to begin in the 22-23 fiscal year. There will be some savings in 21-22, but a lot of this will be over the next 10 years, starting next year. Next page, please. Thank you. So on the left-hand column, this is the gross savings that's going to accrue to the city in an estimated amount based off of assessed value projections. Some of it starts a little bit in 2021, 22, and then again, most of it starts in 22, 23, and then goes throughout. So the left-hand column is the gross savings to the city. The right-hand column, it's called the present value savings to the city. So what is present value? So present value, it basically discounts those numbers back into today's dollars. So your present value savings, and this is net, all of these savings are net of all cost of issuance. In today's dollars, that would be $1.8 million. And after you subtract out the funds on hand and so forth, you have a net present value savings of 443,000, which is 24% of the prior existing bonds. And you have about 10 million in prior bonds that are going to be refinanced and replaced with new bonds. And by the way, this 24% net present value, that's towards the bottom of the page. The GFOA suggests a refinancing for savings if there's at least 3% of net present value savings. And again, net present value is in today's dollars net of all cost of issuance. So this is a very good refunding. Most of the refundings that I've worked on are in the 5 to 7% range. I think this might be a record because it's in excess of 20%. So you're really replacing higher interest rate debt with much lower interest rate debt. And the savings, are going to be to the benefit of the affected agencies, including the city. This is the city's portion. Next page. So as I'd mentioned, there's 10.9 million of Series 2011A and 2011 Series B taxable bonds that are going to be refinanced. So there's some unused proceeds that are going to be used to pay down the new Series 2021 bonds. And by the way, the DOF sent the agency a letter encouraging you to refinance the bonds using the unspent proceeds so that the affected agencies would share in that benefit. So the good news is that the 2011 B bonds are going to be paid off entirely. Further good news that the new Series 2021 bonds will have an estimated par of a little bit less than $3 million and have a maturity of September 1st of 2033. So we're not extending the maturity. And I'd like to again stress that the savings is all net of all cost of issuance. So there's actually two ways to sell bonds. The first, we'll call these two methods of sales. The first is a public offering, which is sold through an official statement to many investors. You need to go out and get a rating. You need to print an official statement. There has to be disclosure counsel. And this is how you sold your 2011 bonds. The other way is selling through a private placement, which is sold through banks through a term sheet with multiple banks, including your local banks, being invited to bid. So that method of sale, if you approve this, is going to be determined by the city manager staff with recommendations from the finance team in mid-May, and it's going to be based off of current market conditions. Next page, please. Thank you. So the financing team, we're going to spend just a couple minutes on this page. I'd like to introduce again Dave Fama from Jones Hall to give you about a minute of talk about Jones Hall and their experience with the city. Dave?
Yeah. Thank you, Albert. Dave Fama here. I'm partner with the law firm of Jones Hall. We're a bond counsel firm exclusively. And we've been proud to represent Galt basically since the early 90s on most all of their bond issues. We did the 2011 redevelopment agency bonds that Albert was speaking of that we are proposing to refund. We also did the 2002 redevelopment agency bonds, which were refunded as part of that 2011 issue. Additionally, we've done city-related issues. We did the financing for the police facility. We've done several of the city's assessment districts and CFDs and so forth. So a long and great relationship with the city, which we're proud to have and we're proud to continue. So we're happy to be involved and like to see the city putting their best foot forward for both themselves in terms of saving money and for the local taxing entities that they're doing it on behalf of. So thank you very much for the involvement, and we look forward to this moving forward.
Thank you very much, Dave. That was very helpful. And so I'd like to just give another 2 minutes. The underwriter or the placement agent, depending on which method of sale, would be Hilltop Securities. They've been in public finance since 1946. They're a nationwide firm. Their firm trades on the New York Stock Exchange. They have 6 offices in California, sales offices, including one in Roseville. They're obviously registered with the SEC and the MSRB, so they can be either an underwriter or a placement agent in case of a private placement. My firm, A.M. Pichet and Associates, I've actually been in public finance since 1985. I started my firm in 1996, so this December it'll be 25 years in business, and I've completed about 1.1 billion in financings. I'm also registered as a municipal advisor with the Securities Exchange Commission and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, the MSRB. I'm conveniently located about 32 miles from your city, and I actually began meeting with the city back in October of 2019 regarding the opportunity to refinance these bonds. The trustee is your current trustee, Bank of New York Mellon. Obviously, they're a big money center bank. They do a lot of work in the trustee area. The fiscal consultant is RSG, and you currently have a current contract with them. They help you develop the ROPS schedules and so forth. So I wanted to also mention that the financing team is going to work on a contingent basis, will only be compensated from the sale of bonds, with the exception of RSG, which if the bond issue doesn't close for some reason, they can be compensated from the recognized obligation payment schedule, otherwise known as ROPS. And again, the estimated savings that we've prepared for you as of April 1st is net of all costs of issuance. Next page. The next page, please. Thank you. So the next steps. So how do we go about getting this money for the city and for the other agencies? The next step would be, this step is for the successor agency to adopt the resolution approving the issuance of refunding bonds. It's then taken over to the oversight board for their approval, and that would be in May. The State Department of the DOF basically has 5 days to respond to the receipt of the oversight board resolution, the bond documents, the plan of refunding, and the savings report. And then it has another 60 days to review and approve the refunding. So we would expect that to be sometime in mid-July. So in mid-May, we're going to determine the method of sale, and we're going to begin preparing either a preliminary official statement for a public offering of bonds or a term sheet that will be prepared to be sent out to banks that bid on this type, and that would also include your local banks. So our hope is that the bonds could be sold in July or August after DOF approval. Then on September the 1st, the 2011 bonds are going to be paid off entirely. We're going to have just a small $3 million issue, the Series B, the 2011 Series B bonds, as I mentioned earlier, they go away completely. And then the increased RPTTF savings begins in 2022-23. Next page. So tonight, what's before you are the moving forward with the refunding, the delivery of indenture of trust, the acceptance of the bond team, and also to direct the city manager to begin implementing refunding activities as necessary. I would also say that if we do move forward with a public offering where there is a preliminary official statement, we would come back to you at some point in either June or July with the approval for a preliminary official statement and also a bond purchase agreement. So that determination we expect to be making about May the 12th. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I had my mute on. I'll go around to council members, starting with our Vice Mayor Sandu. I can't see you. Oh, there you are. Do you have any?
I do not have any question. I just read the report is self-explanatory. Thank you tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Papineau.
I don't have any questions.
Councilmember Vandenberg.
Yeah, I have a couple of quick questions. What risk do we have of the numbers you provided changing by July?
That is a very good question, and it's going to be dependent upon interest rates. So unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball to tell you where interest rates are going. You could hear different thoughts that interest rates are going to stay the same. About a month ago, they had gone up pretty significantly. Now they've kind of leveled off. What I would say is there's a significant amount of savings here. If your savings was only 3 to 5%, I think you'd be at risk, but your savings is 24%. So there are going to be savings here. It just depends upon how much savings. So actually, that's a great question because I'm currently doing a refunding for San Joaquin Delta College. That's a $60 million issue. And their net present value savings, council member, is only about 3.5% to 4%. So they're a lot more nervous because they are very close to the minimal threshold that's recommended by the GFOA. So in your case, as I'd mentioned on that one page, it's 24%. So you're, for lack of a better word, well into the money in terms of savings. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. So you likened it to refinancing your house, which is a fair assessment, but there's no rate lock, as if it's only at the for the interest rate, and I anticipate it to be very reasonable, but it's at the moment of signing or within a week.
So that's a great question. When do rates get locked? And typically in a public offering, when bonds are sold to the public, bonds are sold, and typically that day or the following day, a bond purchase agreement is signed and then the rates are locked. And that's typically about 3 weeks prior to the closing. So in a private placement, the term sheet goes out, it's evaluated, it's sent, by the way, the term sheet goes out to maybe 15 to 20 banks, including your local bank, to see if they'd be interested in bidding on this. You give them 2 weeks to provide the bid, and then they're all due by a certain time, and those bids get analyzed. And typically they will offer a rate lock for about 30 days. So I think that's a lot is going to be dependent upon when the DFOA gives approval. If they take up to the full amount, 60 days, that would be in mid-July, and we could close sometime after that. But at some point, and as soon as possible, preferably, council member, we try to get the rates locked so that your savings are then locked in.
Okay, and then just one last question. On one of the slides, I don't know which number because I'm looking at my packet, but it shows 15, 20 taxing agencies, and it shows school districts in there. I didn't think we had any authority or money commingled with the school districts. At the bottom line, it shows like, well, even number, but 12, not even,
12 million.
12 thousand. So why are all these different agencies all lumped into this one page?
That's a good question. If you, by the way, Rose, if you could bring that page back up, I can explain that. So everybody pays, 1% of their assessed value in taxes to different agencies. And so this 1%, the agencies above it is how the 1% is split. So you don't get that money and then send it over. It just basically gets partitioned by the auditor controller over to those agencies. So these are the agencies that all receive a 1% share of the property tax apportionment. And that's how, because there's not going to be any more debt service on these redevelopment bonds, these agencies, including the city, of course, are going to benefit by not having to pay the debt service on the bonds, but it's going back to those agencies in the form of additional RPTTF money.
Fair enough. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Lozano.
I have nothing.
All right, thank you. So just in a hypothetical, let's say rates change next month. I mean, what is the where you said we're at a 24% savings? So is the change in rates percent for percent, or is it a certain ratio for every interest rate change of, say, like, let's say the interest rate changes like, I don't know, 0.5%. What does that equate into our percentage? Is it percent for percent, or is it? Or
no,
like,
it's not quite. I'm sorry, Mayor. Finish.
Oh, go ahead. You get the question. Go ahead.
No, and that's a great question. It's not really a 1.1%. You can't look at it that way. You know how people look at the Dow Jones Industrial and so forth as a barometer of the stock market, even though it's only 30 stocks. What we look at is the 10-year Treasury rate, and the 10-year Treasury rate is about a 1.55%. That's about where it was about the time of the pandemic. Actually, it was a little bit higher than that. In February, it was probably about 1.8, 1.9%. During the low, it got down to 0.5%. So now we're at 1.55. Honestly, I think you'd have to have 3 to 4% on the 10-year for it to really dig into your savings. Because again, you have so much. I've never seen anybody above 20%. I think the highest I ever worked on was 17%. So it would take a significant move in interest rates, and that would be the talk of the town, if not the whole country, that rates had moved up that fast, that significantly in a 2-month period.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are in the financial world. Do you guys? I mean, obviously, you guys, keep your finger on the pulse to kind of have an idea of if you can you think rates might tick up, or there's usually like some whispering, like, hey, we think this will happen. I mean, what are you hearing, like, on the street, so to speak, that in the next 60 or 90 days?
I'll just back it up a little bit. About a month ago on the Delta College refinancing, rates had gone from 1.25% all the way to 1.75%. It'd gone so quickly, so fast. Everybody a month ago was talking about a 2% rate and moving forward. And part of that, of course, is because of so much stimulus that's with the Federal Reserve and additional monies being passed. With that, it seemed like there was a big pause, I'd say, in the last 2 weeks where rates went down below 1.6, and they're probably about there now. They may have gone down to 1.55%. So I'm hesitant to say where rates are going. I would be surprised if in the next 2 months they were to go above 2.25% or 2.5%. I think that would be a gigantic move in interest rates. I think what a lot of people are doing, from what I've read, is a lot of people are taking advantage of the lower interest of the higher interest rates, obviously. And a lot of insurance companies have annuities that they have to match, that they have to pay out and so forth. So they're taking advantage of buying these yields at 1.75%, knowing that in their mind they would likely go down, and they have. So I'm sorry, Mayor, that was a long way to give you my thoughts about it. Those are my personal thoughts. I would be surprised if rates went above 2.5% in the next 2 months.
All right. Well, thanks for your insight. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Does any other council members have a comment? I can't see everybody, but just speak up if you do, because I can't see. There we go. If nobody does, do we have any public comment on this particular item, Tina?
No public comment.
And Rose, any hands raised online?
We have no hands raised online.
Okay. Looks like no additional comment. So if that concludes the presentation, thank you, Claire. Thank you, Mr. Fama, and I'm looking for the other. And how do you say your name again? I'm sorry, Albert.
Yeah, Peshay. It's Peshay. It sounds like.
All right. Well, thank you again for answering our question.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right. Well, then without further ado, then I will be looking for somebody to move a motion to adopt a resolution approving the issuance of refunding bonds, approving the execution and delivery of an indenture of trust relating thereto, and providing for other matters properly relating thereto. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Lozano and
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilmember Papineau. Have a roll call vote, please.
Board Member Sandu.
Aye.
Board Member Papineau.
Aye.
Board Member Vandenberg.
Aye.
Board Member Lozano.
Aye.
Board Member Farmer.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. I apologize. I'm supposed to be addressing everybody as board member. I forgot. So my apologies on the protocol. All right. Well, thank you for your presentations, gentlemen, and Ms. Tyson. We will now adjourn the Galt Successor Agency and reconvene to the Galt City Council. And with that, we will move on to item L, which is our city clerk's report. We have anything?
Nothing this evening.
All right. Move on now to item M, comments by staff. Mr. Hines.
Yes, good evening. I would like to share my screen here. I wanted to, can everyone see that? I wanted to announce that we're going to start first Thursdays with the city manager. So basically, it's every first Thursday of the month. I will have open office hours from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And to any members of the public who want to come in and talk with me about any city operations, any projects that we're working on, this will allow a direct dialogue with me and allow folks to get information from me, and also allow me to get input from the citizens about city operations and our needs. So I wanted to make the public aware of this, wanted to make the council aware of this. Again, we're going to start with the first Thursday in May. And again, we picked 5 to 7 p.m. because those are generally the times for folks who are working all day. It's our hope that they'll be home sometime between 5 and 7. We've allocated 20-minute slots. So folks can you've got 20 minutes to, tell me what's on your mind and ask any questions. We kept it at 20 minutes because we anticipated a high demand, and we're trying to get in as many folks as we can per session, so I can hear from as much of our citizens as possible. So I wanted to make council aware of that. The other thing I wanted to make council aware of is that we're continuing our outreach effort regarding the Galt master plan, the Galt market master plan. We briefed the Youth Commission, we briefed the Beautification Committee, we briefed the Sunrise Rotary, we briefed the Commission on Aging. We'll be briefing the Commission on Aging and the Planning Commission on Thursday. That's this Thursday. So if there's any members of the public who haven't seen the presentation, who've missed the presentation on April 6th, you're welcome to tune in on Thursday to the Commission on Aging meeting and the Planning Commission meeting and see the presentation for yourself. Economic Development Manager Mendez will also have some updates on the Galt Master Plan outreach effort as well. So I wanted to make sure I got that word out there. And council members, I would encourage you to, if you've got constituents or citizens who want to talk with me directly to clear up any questions, or if there's any chatter on social media that needs clarification, that's why we're here. And so I appreciate the time, Mr. Mayor, and let's go to Finance Director Claire Tyson and see if there's anything there.
Nothing further from me to report. I just want to thank the council for their support of the refunding. Great benefit to our city and to our local agencies. Thank you.
Very good. Let's go to Interim Police Chief Brian Kalinowski.
Good evening, Council. Significant events the last 2 weeks. I don't have anything to report on the criminal side. The mayor mentioned our swearing-in ceremony last Thursday, and I appreciate the participation by staff, our department heads that were there, and the folks that could make it. It was a little warm, but it was a great event. And then lastly, this is my last council meeting as your interim chief. I will go back and move into the position of lieutenant. I will be taking over the operations division, allowing Lieutenant Small to do the interim chief role. So I won't be far away. You're in good hands with Rick. He's a good man, and he's well versed in the operations, and I think you'll be well served by him. I wish you all the best in your continued terms, and here to support in any way I need to going forward, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Public Works Director Mike Selling.
Yeah, thank you, City Manager. Just a couple of quick things I wanted to note. I think all except for one of the new Great American Little Town banners are up around town. So hopefully, if you haven't seen them, you'll get an opportunity to see them. They look great. And anyway, I think once we get that last one, we'll be there for a while. So, and then the other thing I wanted to mention, I guess, is we're getting into the warmer weather time of year. We got a letter from the state Department of Water Resources, probably a couple weeks ago now. Snowpacks are, only about maybe 2/3 of what they've been for the last couple of years. So just wanted to kind of, get the heads up and remind folks to try to do some water conservation wherever you can. And then, yeah, I just wanted to thank Councilmember Lozano for his comments earlier on the SACOG grants, and we'll look forward to getting going on those projects too. Thank you.
Very good. Economic Development Manager, Amy Mendez.
Good evening. As the city manager mentioned in regards to the Galt Market Community Plan, we did update on the front page of the website. There is a button in the middle of the page that is the Galt Market Community Plan page connected from the front page. And when you go to the web page, we've updated it with the new presentation that was provided to City Council on April 6th. It also links to the video from the City Council meeting, as well as the staff report. And then all the historic documents are there as well. And then we provide a kind of a brief synopsis of the latest kind of information on the Galt Market Community Plan. So we'll start pushing that link out to the community starting tomorrow. Just wanted to give everybody an update on that. And I think that is what we have for this evening. As the city manager mentioned, we have the beautification committee and, or the Commission on Aging, excuse me, and the Planning Commission on Thursday for the Galt Market Community Plan. So those are the next two groups that we'll be reaching out to. And we'll continue to push it out to the community. And I know Councilmember Lozano mentioned, you know, kind of community outreach in addition to the commissions and committees. And so we had discussed some community forums that we've been talking about internally. So that is more to come coming into the next couple of weeks. So that's it. Oh, you know what? Actually, just a heads up really quick. I wanted to give council and the community sort of a heads up. We've had a little technical difficulty with our Facebook page, and we haven't been able to, well, we've been able to post, but it's been coming from Instagram. So it's had some glitches that we're working through right now. And so we haven't been able to comment on any comments that come from the community. I haven't been able to share anything coming from the Galt Market or from the Galt Police Department. So we're hoping to have that resolved within the next, you know, hopefully a couple of weeks. But if it looks like there's not a ton of activity or communication on the Facebook page, that's why. I can't call anybody at Facebook. I've tried to email everybody, and we've done some outreach with our IT folks. And so we're working through it right now, but just wanted to give everybody a heads up that we're having to cross post from Instagram. So that's the hang up right now.
Did you get us put into Facebook jail, Amy?
I did something, I don't know what it is. I still haven't been able to figure it out. They've blocked us from getting in there. So it's been kind of a nightmare. We're working through it though. And hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll have that up and running. We have been able to post, it's just having to go through Instagram, which is kind of a pain. So yeah, if you notice anything kind of funky, that's where it's coming from. And that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you so much. Human Resources Director, Stephanie Van Stein.
Yes, good evening. I just thought I would highlight some of our recruitments that we're working on. So anyone that's interested, or if you know someone that's qualified, please have them visit our HR website. We've reopened our IT manager position, and the closing date on that is going to be May 7th. We've got an assistant engineer / associate civil engineer position posted in our public works department. We're looking to fill only one position, whether it's at the entry level or the more advanced level for that. We also have our code compliance officer position that's been open in our community development department, and that position closes in about a week. And we, of course, have our police officer job openings. We have the police dispatcher position posted again. We have a couple of recreation worker part-time temporary positions in the Parks and Recreation Department. And then we also still have our janitorial position, which is a temporary position posted in our Public Works Department. So again, if you know of anyone or anyone listening this evening, if you're interested, please visit our website. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Community Development Director, Craig Hoffman.
All right, council members. Also on Thursday, besides the Galt Market Plan that we'll start off with at 6 o'clock, we're also going to be hearing the draft housing element. And so it's an opportunity to see that document, and we will be trying to get that to the council early. It's going to be on your agenda on May 4th. So we want to give you some time with that document. It is the draft. So that's, I think, the big item coming up. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you. Parks and Rec Director, Armando Solis.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Parks Rec, we're really busy now. We went from doing nothing with this COVID shutdown to seems that the county's opening more and more as we move along. We were just approved to have our swim team go, our aquatic center open for the public by the county. We're fully into T-ball. The county has approved some modified tournaments at the sports complex. We will be doing the vaccines this weekend, plus all next week with CSD. And for our parks guys, the parks we're in growing season. We're still trying to keep up. We're still mowing the parks twice a month and the landscaping once a month. The guys are doing a great job. And then I wanted to make you aware that as requested by council, we are doing an RFP for landscape services to compare to our in-house as requested. So that is currently out to bid. If you see that, that is for comparison and then a decision to be made during our budget process. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No, I think thank you, Mr. Smith.
Alrighty, thank you so much. Thank you so much. City Clerk Tina Hubert.
Nothing this evening.
City Attorney Harriet Steiner.
I also have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Very good. Admin Assistant Rose Rodacker.
I have nothing tonight. Thank you.
All right. I have just one final thing to say on the first Thursdays. We're currently using the Zoom format as starting our first Thursdays. As the county and the state and the country opens up, those Zoom meetings will turn into in-person meetings as time goes on. Or we'll give the user the option of doing it via Zoom or doing it in person. So I just wanted to mention that. Mr. Mayor, that concludes staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Hines. We will now move on to comments by City Council member, future agenda items. We'll start with our Vice Mayor, Mr. Sandhu.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very brief. First of all, I would like to thank you, Mr. Hine, and all your staff doing a good job, bringing us a good report, very clear report. Thank you. And I also like to thank you with the public comment. Especially, I like to thank you, Jerry Sauter. Every meeting he come to and spend his time, but he's speaking on behalf of the citizen. So I really like to thank you. Jerry Sauter, Rosal Wan, thank you tonight for give your comments. And thank you, Ralph Cortez. He make a comment tonight, and this is my concern. And I also like to thank you, Galt Police Association, Michael Lera. Thank you, Mike. You give us a statement. Thank you. Thank you. And I also attended the sworn-in ceremony last week. Welcome and congratulations to the new officer and the dispatcher. And I also like to thank you, Brian Kalanowski. This event was very good event after a long time. And I also like to thank you, Mr. Brian, for your last 6 months as an interim chief. Good job. Thank you. And nothing further. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Papineau.
Director Solis mentioned it's growing season and they're working hard to keep up. Just to pass along a few grocery store comments that they're doing a good job. People are happy with the way things are looking. And thank you, Chief, for the last 6 months. And thank you all for the reports tonight. That'll be it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Vandenberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I also attended the swearing in. It was a great pleasure to not only see 4 people, dedicate their lives in that field, but it was really nice to see a graduate of Galt High come back and serve in Galt to help, serve their community. That's a real blessing. I really like that. Thank you, Chief Kalinowski, for the past 6 months. I appreciate all the efforts that you put in and your diligence. 2 other things. I'd like to see a vote to open up either Walker Park and or Veterans Field. We're having T-ball, but we still have some of our parks closed. So I'd like to see a vote on that. And then I'd also like to visit our city code on elections. When I ran, there's several items I felt were unnecessary. We're filling out 460 forms that the FPPC doesn't even want, and then we're filling them, one on top of the other at the end of the election cycle, one strictly for the city of Galt. I don't really feel like it's necessary.
Well, Jay, if you wanted to reach out to Mr. Hines with those concerns, and then I don't know if Mr. Hines, you want to go and get the consensus of the council on some of these things. What are your thoughts?
I'll be happy to chat with Councilmember Vandenberg about these issues. I believe him and I have a meeting scheduled for Thursday.
Okay. Just for the record, I have had people ask about the parks, the veterans soccer field as well. So I would support looking into that just for the record. So does that conclude? You have other comments, Jay? Is that it?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Lozano.
Yeah, I would also say I've spoken with City Manager Hines about Walker Park and or Veterans Field. I think maybe we all got the same email from a citizen. But anyhow, so I know that they're working hard on that, the city manager and Armando Solis. So appreciate that. Interim Chief Kalinowski, thank you for your time. As interim chief, you've done it from my perspective, which I guess really kind of doesn't matter because I don't hire you, but I think you've done an awesome job. Certainly the feedback that I get, kind of grocery store stuff is that, the troops are pretty happy. And so it's great to have, good morale in the department. I think your leadership has brought that. So, and again, not that the morale wasn't high before, but I think you've really done a good job in that area. So that is pretty much all I have. I thank you to the staff for the thorough reports. And I want to thank the city manager and all the staff members really for taking my ongoing questions that I have on these staff reports and really taking the time to answer those and ahead of the meeting. And I know it's a lot of work for you, especially when we get a packed calendar, but it really helps me and it really helps me get back to the community, the citizens that ask ahead of time. So anyhow, thank you very much and have a great evening, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember. For me, just a few things. Just I want to tell the citizens to keep an eye on social media for information about the vaccination event coming up this weekend that is to be announced. I will try to share whatever's posted onto my pages. We're starting to see more events now that the COVID restrictions are starting to loosen up. So one would be we have a drug take back event at Galt PD this Saturday, 24th from 10 to 2. If you have prescription drugs, they will be taking those at Galt PD and getting them off the street. Again, that's between 10 and 2 p.m. Galt PD this Saturday, the 24th. Also have the Historical Society putting on the tea at the Ray House, which is always a good event. That's May 8th. Galthistory.org is that webpage. You can more information on that. There's also a special Galt Public Safety meeting coming up on April 26th. That is going to be talking about some traffic concerns. If you want to tune to that. And also too, want to echo the vice mayor's sentiment to the people that commented. You know, it is hard to get people's participation, and I applaud those that do comment in. Mr. Sauter, thank you very much for your, you know, your very kind remarks earlier about my Facebook podcast thing. That was, and thank you for all the people that wrote in with comments for that. That was, I hit with a lot of questions. Some of them were tough. I had to lean on staff for that. You know, I had to get some answers last minute from staff, but I think it was very well, and people were very happy to get answers. So, but last but not least, I want to say thank you to the chief, Kalinowski, for his job over the last 6 months. I too heard the same thing that Councilmember Lozano mentioned from the actual officers, that morale has been very high. I think it was the exact words were from the person that told me that's been the highest they've seen in a long time. So you should pat yourself on the back. I think you did a good job, and I appreciate you, you know, stepping up in that role. I know it's not easy with all the politics and having to come to meetings like this and listen to all the council members blab. So you're free of that for a while. And other than that, I just want to, again, yeah, thank you all the staff for your reports tonight, and for clarifying some issues that we had concerns about the one agenda item, Mr. Selling and Mr. Clarkson. And I think that's all I have. So everybody have a good remaining week, and we will adjourn the meeting 8:55 p.m. Good night.
Good night.